I think that's playing, by the way. Boomer.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Please delete as applicable because the internet is worldwide and time zones are indeed still a thing. Could somebody give me a wee audio check on the chat, please? And I introduce my co-hosts.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure when you were playing the audio there, like it was like coming through your mic and not actually through the way it was supposed to go.
Yeah, we had silence.
Oh. Right. That was.
You're fine now, but it was just the intro.
Yeah. Holy good fuck! This is I couldn't get it to load to the screen, so I put it on the. Ah, fuck! I know what it is. I shared the screen, but the audio only works when I'm on a shared screen whenever it's done through fucking Chrome for some reason. But oh well, that's a good start.
It's the best part of the fucking stream too, is the introduction. We're fucked now.
Yeah.
It's all downhill from here, boys.
It's all downhill from here. How you doing, DJ? Apart from the boomer intro,
I'm all right. Like, it's been a bit of a shite day. So obviously, wanted to go out with my dog today, but the weather's been shite. So I've been confined to recording clips from the Parliament like a sad man. How about yourself?
Oh, well, I've been good. Running back and forth to the hospital because Emma G's a bit poorly. But hopefully, our world famous National Health will get her sorted in no time. Yeah, actually, we'll talk a wee bit about the NHS whenever we get started. Sansom, what about you, chum?
Yeah, I'm doing okay, mate. It only seems like 2 minutes ago I was on a stream, but doing fine. I'm sorry to hear about Emma G, mate. I hope she's feeling a bit better. I hope so. Anyway, yeah, don't like to hear when people are poorly.
Yeah, mate, she had a bit of a cold flu type thing, and she went up to the hospital on Monday morning because she was running a temperature and all sorts of stuff. Went up to the hospital. She went from accident to emergency into the bed out the back to sit in a chair from sort of 7 o'clock in the morning until about 10 p.m. And then she got admitted to a corridor bed, which is now apparently a thing in our NHS, because they were saying the people and the thing, we're going to get you a corridor bed, which is a bed that's sort of on the ward and sort of in the corridor. And she has eventually, sometime this evening, got moved into a room. So her temperature's still up. They're trying to figure out what the exact infection is, and then they'll get it under control. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I'll tell you something now, mate. It's funny you say that because there's a few folk. I work for a company where there's people dotted all around the UK, including Belfast, Northern Ireland. Well, Northern Ireland, but you know the office is in Belfast. But several people from all over the country, sort of southwest, sort of Midlands, Derby way, Oldham way, 2 or 3 people, like, you know, at least one from each section have come down with some horrendous, nasty shit. And, you know, the first thing out of the mouths is, because they've still got that knee-jerk reaction, is it's not COVID because I've been tested. It's like, it sounds like COVID had been better for you, do you know? It sounds rough as assholes. And Bonnie lad, you know, only a couple of weeks back, he had something similar, you know, a nasty sort of infection, cold chest infection type thing, really made him poorly as well. So there's a nasty fucker going around, that's for sure.
Yeah, I figured out why our NHS has, why the waiting lists are so long and why it's overcrowded. We have a health service 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and about Thursday. Come Thursday, everything gets shut down. They're on skeleton crews, and they do nothing again until Monday morning. Now, I have this radical idea. I know you're going to think it's stupid, but see those operating theatres that have lights and shit in them? What about you do operations in the evening and at the weekends and work through the waiting lists?
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that we don't have the same thing up here in terms of having a Friday off. I'm pretty sure it's constant up here, but we've got the same problem. The way it looks like.
Oh, no, you just do have a Friday off because they stopped doing
It's an effective 42 means it's an effective Friday off.
Yeah, right. They stopped doing operations on Thursday because if they do it on Friday, they don't have the necessary amount of staff in the intensive care wards if anything goes wrong. Yeah,
and you know, it's a funny thing you should say that, and this is a very real thing, right? And my nephew, who is actually a doctor in a hospital now, and he said, you just want to pray you get sick at the weekend. I said, well, there's no fucker there. He goes, yeah, but the thing is, if you fall ill at the weekend, chances are, you know, it won't get bad till the week, and then you're sorted. If you fall ill midweek and you end up when you're poorly at the weekend, you're fucked. It's like, what? Where's this all coming from, sunshine? I didn't know this. I'm still waiting for the bastard to, you know, when they talk about, you know, we can grow organs and we do all, I'm still waiting for the bastard to grow me a new knee. I need a new knee. Where's my fucking new knee?
Get yourself bastard. Right, Sansom, get yourself to Belfast for that. We have got the best knee surgeons in the world.
Yeah. Well, I love Belfast. Belfast is well, the parts of Belfast that I occupied, which was mainly West Belfast, in fairness, but hold on a minute, let me get this right. East Belfast, I should say. So the sort of the towny bit, sort of no more than that. So airport, and then towny bit.
Yeah. Oh, that's my neck of the woods.
Yeah, I like that bit. Like I say, I used to walk past that Borstal. You know, I think to me, I was, because when I first time I got there, so I want to have a wander around, see what it's like, and you know, central, you know, the city, you know, the cathedral district of the city is beautiful. Really reminded me a lot, once again, of the likes of Newcastle and Liverpool. Sort of basically a port city. You know, nice bit of money about it as well. You know, obviously in the past had a bit of money about it because of shipping, etc. But the walk from the hotel, which was on the Lagan Docks, which was a good hotel. It's that new fucker, you know, the can't remember the name, but it's a new one on there. Bit posh. That's when I first started. Lucky to get that one now these days, tight pinching buggers. But I remember walking, and I got the old map of the town, because I'd said to a couple of lads, like, you know, fancy a pint? Yeah, we'll go for a pint. And he goes, where do you want to go? And one of the lads just said, yeah, we'll go here. And I was like, all right, is that a good place? Well, yeah, it's safe. I said, all right then. And I think, what's it called? The Duke of York?
Duke of York and the Cathedral Quarter.
Yeah. So I'm
Yeah,
walking from the Lagan Dock Hotel. It wasn't
yeah.
called that. It was some fancy name like bloody, De Vere or something like that. I can't remember.
I
But,
know what you're talking about, but I can't remember the name of it either.
yeah.
We're pretty
But yeah, I
much.
was walking from there, and he got these directions. I end up in this. I go in this underpass. You know, the underpass under the motorway. You end up in
Yes.
that bit of Borstal bit between the Lagan and going where you're going. There's this bit of Borstal bit. I'm like, the fuckers have set me up. I'm going to get lynched here. And it was, and I'm looking at this fucking monstrosity of a building. I was like, fuck is this place? It looks like prison. And it was the post office building. But I did eventually find my way and had a cracking night. I tell you what, it was. I don't remember much of it. You know, you boys, you have no idea how to drink, have you? You're fucking useless.
Yeah.
No, you don't want to go that one there. They're shut at 2. You want to come this one? It doesn't shut till 4. It's like, fuck. It was great stuff, though. Love the people of Belfast. I really do. They probably hate me, but I love you lot.
Yeah. An interesting spin-off from our conflict is we got the best knee surgeons in the world out of that, because we have a lot of people that got shot in the leg, baseball bat to the knees, all that sort of stuff. So our doctors are they're the best knee doctors in the world because they've had that much practice.
Okay.
I'll
Learn
keep
something
that
new
in
every
mind,
day.
mate,
Yeah.
because I could do it. I tell you what, I only need one. I'm not greedy. I just need one. But it's the, you know, when I was a kid, it's sport. So I did sport, and I did sport even into me sort of early 40s. You know, still playing tennis, still playing footy. But unfortunately, because I wasn't particularly good at either, and rugby and the likes, because I only had a right foot when I was playing footy and all that, and I was a centre half, so basically the ball just doesn't need to be in your half and you're doing your job, yeah? So oofing it up the field was my de rigueur tactic.
Yeah,
So
were you also kicking the centre forward up in the air?
No. Well, I did it once. I tell you what, I did it once, and I would never do it again because I got strung up by the neck by the sports teacher. I used to be at school. There was a hell of a bloody sportsman, gifted lad, a young lad called Anthony Gallimore. He was in a year younger than us, but we used to do sports together like those 2 years as a group. And he ended up being captain, I think, of Grimsby Town. So obviously not the upper echelons like a Messi or whatever, but he was head and shoulders above every fucker at our school, put it that way. And I once double legged him when we were playing, and yeah, and in fairness, I did get the ball first. Because if I'd have got him first, the ball would have carried on going straight forward, and it didn't. It went out for a throw in, a legitimate throw. I got strung up by that teacher. And you know, justifiably, that was when teachers were proper teachers. Honestly, I didn't realise that. I bet the football shirts of today wouldn't take that amount of pressure. You couldn't get hoisted off your feet by a football shirt these days, I'm pretty sure. But I did that day. I got such a bollocking. But then after, the best of it was after that, 2 or 3 weeks later, I think we were playing cricket, believe it or not, because I think the footy season had ended and the cricket season was on. And that same teacher come down and he goes, yeah, apologies, I was a bit harsh to you there, but you do realise he is a county player. And I goes, I just was a fair tackle. He goes, well, yeah, it was, but it looked really fucking harsh. so, yeah, anyway, you cunt. He said, well, I saw that fat boy, basically, that thing. Get your ass out there on the old cricket field. He goes, oh, yeah, okay, sir. So that was it. That was his means of apology. So, so that was... So, I didn't mind teachers that didn't tolerate bullshit. Yeah. In fact, the teachers who I liked the most were the ones that were the least fucking tolerant of bullshit. People messing about. I loved them. Loved them all. But anyway.
Yes. Right. What we're going to talk, I would like to do a little bit about the Northern Ireland local elections that we had recently. There was, just going to pull this link up. Yeah, there was a lot of talk about because Sinn Féin became the largest party in council seat. The election results meant that we needed to get the power sharing back up and running. So I just want to have a quick 2 pence worth on that. And here we go. Behold, there's the election results from BBC News. Sinn Féin, they gained 39 seats. DUP have 122, no change from last year. Alliance have gained 14. UUP, supposedly a unionist party, but really aren't. They have lost 22. Their seats have gone somewhere. SDLP, which are non-terrorist nationalist politicians, they have lost 20. The SDLP seats have definitely gone to Sinn Féin, which is a step towards the terrorists. But all this clamour about the DUP, who are staying out of Stormont, needing to get back in because of the election results, can't understand where it's coming from, because they had said they weren't going back in, and they are far and away the largest unionist party, and the mandate they've been given by the people is to stay out. We also have a weird thing in our politics where, in order for anything to be changed, you're supposed to have a majority of the majority and a majority of the minority. So even if Sinn Féin are the largest party, the DUP would be the majority of the minority, and they would have a veto on doing anything. So that's pretty much where we are with Northern Ireland politics. Because I want DJ.
No, sorry, I was coughing. Sorry,
Right.
I wasn't interrupting. On you go.
No, well, that's my spiel on it. Have either of you two anything to say on that one? Probably not.
Well, as I said on Toffee streams, I just don't really pay that much attention to politics that's out with Scotland. But I will say, though, when you're on about mandates and whatnot, like the DUP's issue that they've got, though, is the fact that quite a few people, if you believe the referendum result of 2016, quite a few people in Ireland did vote to Remain. So they've obviously got that aspect of contention there. That might be why the Sinn Féin are starting to claw back votes, because that's fundamentally the only reason the SNP still managed to maintain support in Scotland. It's because they've now got independent supporters and EU supporters. You know what I mean? So possibly that's what it's coming from.
I would tell you that Northern Ireland did not have a referendum. Britain did.
Oh yeah, but you know what I mean. Across the four nations, like I know what you mean. Yeah, but like as it was broken down, Scotland and Ireland, or Northern Ireland, voted to remain. Wales and England voted to leave. Like that's how it was broken down, and that's all I'm referring to. So
yeah,
like that can be exploited, and you're seeing it being exploited in Scotland. And I don't know. I'm posing the theory. I'm assuming it's being exploited in Northern Ireland as well. Oh, we voted to the Main and we're being dragged out against our will. Same shit we hear here.
Yeah, there is a bit of that, mainly from the Alliance Party.
With my fucking cheese in, like.
Yeah, the Alliance Party would be pretty similar to the Green Party. They're
cunts.
Yeah, that would be the word for them, cunts.
Oh, fuck cunts. I mean, Scottish politics has been a fucking car crash for years, but since the SNP have now joined up with the Greens, we've just effectively, as a nation, cut off our cock and started taking hormone blockers. Like, we're just the gay guy in the block, like the gay tranny on the block now. Like, And it's all the Greens, all this nonsense that they're started forcing through that, like, literally nobody in the country wants. But I don't give a fuck, we're passing it anyway because we have to. It's like, thanks. You know, they're supposed to be all like so concerned about climate change and, you know, Earth is hanging by a thread. But before we get to solving the pressing matter of the climate crisis, let's push through policies to make it easier for trannies to transition. You know, it's like, you've got your priorities in order, like, you know.
Yeah. That's all pretty much starting to come to the fore over here, the way it wasn't. It was always there. It's been there for probably about 10 years, but you can see it being pushed more prominently as an issue now. It's fucking nuts. What is quite... I quite enjoy it whenever I go to the polling station if there's somebody from the Green Party outside, because I tend to know their manifesto better than they do. And whenever I start telling them that their manifesto states that children with no lower age limit should be allowed to choose their gender, the actual Green Party workers get a bit surprised at that.
Well, I'd love to have a conversation or two with some of the little SNP soy boys up here, like, because I don't think any of them have a clue what's been written in their manifestos. Like, all they hear is independence or European Union renewal, and that's all. You know, I'll vote for that, like, but you know, you don't read the small print. And I don't blame them, really, because more often than not, these manifestos, it's just full of endless wall-to-wall, page after page, just bollocks. But always hidden in the small print is some cancer. You know?
Oh, the Alliance Party do this really weird thing with their manifesto. They print it on a yellow background and not always with black writing. And it actually hurts your eyes trying to read it.
Mm-hmm.
The last time I looked at their manifesto, I ended up copying and pasting the whole sections out of it and putting it onto a document so it was black on white so I could actually read it. I think they have done that in order to try and reduce the amount of people that actually read their manifesto.
Right. So you're like me then, you fucking you cipher through the manifestos as well. I'm on the autism, man.
Yeah.
Own it. Embrace it. Has to be done.
I done a thing in 2013 where I went through the manifestos of all the parties and pointed out where the scam was. And the only people that actually didn't have a scam going was Sinn Féin. They actually had in their manifesto what they say. The rest of them did. The rest of them didn't. DUP was actually quite close to where they said they were in their manifesto, but the rest of them was a fucking scam.
Yeah,
particularly the Green Party.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's all the same here. I mean, it's like all the stuff that they've been passing, and this isn't just the last year or so. For fucking ever since I started my YouTube channel, anyway, 2016, 2017, it's the same crap every election cycle in Scotland, irrespective of which party you're referring to, because all the other parties, they frame their campaigning as opposing the SNP, and then the SNP will frame their campaign as, you know, wanting to be independent. Oh, I love the EU so much, blah, 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 right? So people fucking vote on those boundary lines, whether you're a unionist or not. But then they get in, and then that's when the issues start. Like, that's when people realistically should have read the small print, because they knew damn well they were never going to get a referendum. It's just a ploy to win each election. This is in the Scottish context. Like, now they're passing like the fucking every aspect of the sustainable development goals since 2015 onwards. That's what they've been doing. And then you've got the fucking climate justice fund. You've got building racial literacy. You've got enshrined in law gay education or LGBT education. That thing that I posted today. We've even got some new bollocks called what the fuck was it called again? It was a climate investigative service or some shit, right? So it's a more bureaucracy, effectively. It's like all the councils are going to be given more levers and more powers to be able to financially coerce people within their constituencies. Do you think really people voted for that? No, they did not. They voted for the wee referendum they're never going to get. So
Sheepdog. Hey, Sheepdog, aren't you from Ireland? As in, oh, get this. I used to always say the Republic of Ireland, and I only found out about in the last year that they have dropped the Republic of from the name, and they did it years and years ago. I thought Sheepdogs, I'm pretty sure Sheepdogs from Ireland, but he's saying I'd vote DUP if I could. I'm not saying something. They stand for their people, and I respect that, unlike the rest of the traitors and sharp cunts. They are.
we don't even have that luxury in Scotland. There's literally not one political party that you could, or I could put my name to and say, oh, you know what? If you're going to vote, go out and vote for them. It's not fucking wanna. Like, even like the Scottish libertarians and whatnot, I know like they're not even in Parliament. Like, there's like these wee random parties like nobody's ever heard of, but like not one of them at any point speaks out about demography. And I think that's a fundamental thing that needs to be addressed. We're moving further and further away from the concept of like national identity and stuff towards an inclusive society where anybody can be whatever the fuck they want. Like, no, that needs to be addressed. And then like the Scottish Family Party, okay, fair enough. They oppose like the gay shit in school and critical race theory. They started to touch upon that. But I've watched that Richard Lucas. He did a video a few years ago, and it's called like the race and immigration question. And he more or less said, because he's a bald Christian, that that he wouldn't give a fuck if Scotland was full to the brim of black people, provided they were Christian. Oh, that's great. Fuck off. Like, I'm not voting for you then. The fuck, like, so and then you've obviously got the bog standard parties like Tory and Labour and whatnot, but that's just part of the same issue that we see in Westminster. So, nah, I don't know. Arguably, I think we should get rid of these parliaments, in all honesty. Devolution's a mistake. But I don't think that would really rectify any issues for for Scotland or Wales, really, because we still got the issue of Westminster. So, I don't know.
The devolved government in Northern Ireland should be gone. It should be just fucking bundled up, thrown in the trash where it belongs. It has been closed for 40% of the time that it's been in effect since the 40% of the time since the Good Friday Agreement. And the damnedest thing is, even with that devolved government down, the lights stay on, the bins get emptied, the fucking laws get updated, the policies get updated. That's all must be going on some fucking zombie thing. It's basically a civil service. It's showing you what actually happens in this country, because it's not the politicians running this country, it's the civil servants. And I'm pretty sure that's right across the whole...
The mystery stakeholders who, when you do a bit of digging, you 9 times out of 10 will come to find that they're all activists. So like if a policy is going to be, or a consultation is coming out about, say, let's just for argument's sake, climate change. It's always a go-to example. They'll get the stakeholders in, but it won't be people that have balanced views on both sides of the argument. Oh no, it'll be Radical Peter, who's just come from his Just Stop Oil protests, and he's an expert because he's read the science, etc. No, he's just a dick. They get activists in, and they masquerade as experts. That has been a common theme for the longest time. It's just a fucking charade. I don't know if you've got. I know Westminster has like a YouTube channel and stuff, like Westminster TV. I don't know if you've got one for Northern Ireland though, but see the Scottish one. Every day it's just mundane committees, and like they sit there and it's like just dicks who are classified as activists. And I never at any point hear opposing opinions with that. It's just circle jerk after circle jerk. They go in there to effectively say exactly what the committee want to hear and whatnot, and it's just the most preposterous nonsense at times. You know, like they're on about one of the committees I watched today is about human rights, the human rights bill that again nobody in fucking Scotland voted for, but you know there's a political consensus because every party's the same. We've got this human rights bill coming into effect soon, which is going to be additional protections for black people, for women, for old people, and for children, all United Nations charters. So that's going to supersede our own law. But we had like 3 dickhead experts in today, or whatever day it was. I was watching it today, and they're just sat there talking about dignity. Like they spent half an hour talking about dignity and human rights and how to approach situations. What the fuck? You're on about dignity. Like they spend so much time talking about namby-pamby feelings. It's only crackpot lefty activist types that even see the world through that lens, but that's what formulates our fucking policies here. Nuke it, Papa Putin, come and nuke me, daddy.
Well, we don't have our stuff on YouTube, but there is. You can, like Belfast City Council, you can go onto their website and they stream the council meetings, and you can get them for like about a year back. And I'm pretty sure that there is a way to watch the debates in Stormont if they ever actually get to having some people in Stormont. Personally speaking, I don't want them there. And neither does anybody that lives around where I do. And that lovely place that Samson was talking about, East Belfast, we're all of the opinion no more Stormont until the Northern Ireland Protocol is sorted out.
Yeah.
And we are no longer part of the European Union.
That needs to get the fuck like.
Yeah, it's an absolute fucking joke.
Right.
But right, DJ, you posted quite a bit of stuff into the channel.
Just before you came live,
yes,
it's all related. Well, my phone keeps spurging out, man. It's on the way out. But
right. Which one do you want up first?
On my phone, or fucking where is it? Aye, so the 2 things. It's just like 3 separate posts, but like 2 of them are related. So obviously there's the stuff about like Please Scotland be racist. The very top one out of the post that I posted, so that one was at 8:20. That's got the actual report, Please Scotland's report. You know, to show it's racist. And then there's a few relating to that, and then the one below it's the other one.
Mate, that picture, that woman there on the left there, she's pretending to be Cressida Dick Light, isn't she? She's obviously a beam flicker. I mean, come on.
What woman?
In that picture, you know, where it's on about the Police Scotland says it's all still institutionally racist, which is completely bollocks. The bird on, I mean, I'm assuming it's a woman, you know, probably identifies as a fucking Trojan horse, but you know, they've all got that time. Have you noticed now? You don't ever, you know, you don't ever see like a June Strickland or, you know, a bloody DC Skase or anybody like that. And the cops now, they're all namby-pamby, weak as maidens.
Same with fucking Hollywood. Like, I mean, they've all got short hair, all the women.
That particularly egregious bloody short-haired, Spock-haired bird.
Oh, fucking Maggie Chapman, like,
she's
fucking. Oh, I would make love to her, like. Fucking would. I would take her on a long drive, a secluded drive out to Loch Ness, and I would stroke her beaver. And I would tell her that I will make love to you tonight, Maggie.
DJ,
but I want you to fuck off back to Rhodesia, where you came from. Do we have an agreement? Oh, yes, DJ, yes. Right, here we go.
Look at the mutt on that face there. Look at the fucking state of that.
Oh, yeah, there's a video here. Hopefully it'll load, like.
Yeah.
One of his last acts before he retired. So does basically Scotland get Cressida Dick Light then as the replacement?
Pretty much.
Fucking hell.
Why is that not
fucking... Yeah, you can't have a police force without a beam flicker at the top.
See if I can get it up my one now. But the post above that though is actually the actual report.
Oh, like, the one you want the one above that?
Aye, because it's
right.
This is like this is where they got the groundbreaking information to go out. And by the way, just kind of on a side note, like this fucking Sheku Bayou guy, the black guy who they still haven't determined whether or not race was a motivating factor for how he died when he was lifted, when he was out his tits on drugs after fucking threatening people with a knife. However, point is though, surely this dickhead chief of police in Scotland coming out and saying what he said has sort of jeopardized the fucking trial, because the whole point is to determine whether or not Sheku Bayou died at the hands of the police due to racism. So for them to come out before there has been a conclusion on said trial and suggest that the police are racist institutionally, does that not tarnish the trial to some degree? I don't know. I thought that was a bit odd, like, but
yeah, that will prejudice the inquiry or what? Yeah.
So like see if you scroll down this like a bit.
Right.
You should be a hyperlink to the actual report. Yeah, the first of two reports.
Right.
Oh yeah. There we go. So this is where they get their groundbreaking. Police is racist because anecdotes. So just a wee bit down, right? Because there's only 21 pages, but just keep going a wee bit. Wait. Down a wee bit more, I think. Where is it? 2 seconds. No, I think you're going a bit far now. I'll look it up on my phone and I'll tell you what it is, because it was just the way it was worded. It just goes to it more or less just like makes the whole report redundant. Not that it really held any relevancy anyway, but where the fuck was it?
This is the first of two interim findings report, which the Equality, Diversity, Inclusion and Human Rights Independent Review Group. Fuck, that must be fun to sit on.
Aye.
That you must come out of those the meetings for that group feeling really good about yourself.
Right. Page 6, right?
Page 6.
It says I'll wait till you get to like one above it.
One above it.
Aye. Just a wee bit, yep. So it says the insights just underneath the bullet points is like the insights described in section 5 of this report. They're all primarily on qualitative evidence gathered via the interviews, discussions, and observations we have conducted to date. During the next phase of this review, as well as gather further primary data, we will endeavour to consider the qualitative evidence in the context of administrative data, including, for example, data on complaints, grievances, misconduct, recruitment, retention, and promotion. Right? What evidence? What fucking evidence? The evidence that they're referring to is what they said at the start of the paragraph, where they said that it's evidence gathered via interviews, discussions, and observations. So this is all anecdotes. It's all anecdotes. So the entirety of this report is predicated on anecdotes. So all it takes is for some brown people to say that the police are racist, and hey presto, we've got a report saying the police are racist. It's funny how that seems to always work, you know. But it's just the whole report is just. It's just a total cringe fest when you start to read through it. You know, where was the other paragraph? I think it's near there. Just scroll down. I'm on page 7 on my phone. It says though that we have heard repeatedly that the culture of policing in Scotland has been influenced by demographic changes to the workforce over the last 20 years. So what they're saying there is Scotland's becoming less Scottish, you know, and as a result, according to them. In particular, a generational shift towards more liberal social attitudes. So less Scottish, more left. This trend was seen as mirroring changes in society at large. However, there was a perception that attitudes within the service are still catching up with society. Incoming probationers were said to be both more enlightened and more likely to speak up and challenge traditional command and control culture. However, it was reported to us that willingness to speak up and challenge ebbed away the longer officers stayed in the service. It's just bollocks. So you got key insights and key themes. It just goes on and fucking on, all the way down. But obviously, this report came out at the start of the week, and then obviously with this trial going on, this Sheku Bayou, the chief of police came out to fucking say that he agreed with this report, and the police are inherently and institutionally sexist and racist and homophobic. Now, this is, as I say, in the context of a trial going on to determine whether or not the death of an individual in police custody was race related, and you come out and say, "Oh yeah, we're all racist." You know, it's like the equivalent of like being in a jury and somebody's trying to like the judge is trying to determine whether or not the victim is raped or if she's faking or a fake allegation or something, and then some guys the guy just goes, "Oh yeah, I did rape her." You know what I mean? Fuck. So I'll be very surprised if this doesn't result in that conclusion being that Sheku Bayu, a man on flaka, by the way, which is effectively bath salts, will not surprise me if that is now seen as a race-related murder because of this dickhead and a stupid report predicated on assumptions and anecdotes. But I won't bore you with the entirety of it. It's 21 pages of pish. Just wanted to show you that how it's just literally says there that it's all fucking anecdotes, more or less. There's nothing, there's no statistics, there's nothing like no long-term case studies done. No, it's just let's get Tyrone and Jamal in a room and find out if PC Jamal and PC Tyrone have felt okay at work, and you know, the rest is history.
Yeah. Why do a proper study and gather evidence whenever you can just do it on the matter of opinion?
Exactly. Yeah. It's the same like with Cricket Scotland as well, right? They said Cricket Scotland was institutionally racist, right? Why? Because a couple of brown men claimed that people said mean things to them, right? So there was a big anti-racist fucking sort of tribunal that took place. And one of their recommendations to ensure that Cricket Scotland can no longer be institutionally racist is to remove all the boards of directors who were all Scottish and replace them with brown men. Like the entirety of the board of directors for Cricket Scotland is brown and black people. That was one of the recommendations. That's what they had to do to ensure that Cricket Scotland could not be fucking racist anymore, apparently. But it's just the same shit. People say things and then we have to take it seriously. But, you know... Tamwar thinks that somebody threw him a dirty stare, a racist stare. Oh, we better take it seriously, like, because if we don't, then we're racist. You know, Tamwar thinks it was racism. Must be racism then. So this is where we're at now. Right?
Yeah, everything's racist. What if the brown and black people don't want to run cricket in Scotland? Did anybody ask them?
But it's... They get cunts in, though, that fucking say that the only reason that they weren't on the board of directors to begin with is because they stink of fucking clary or something. Like, oh, like you have to earn it the same way that the rest of us have to earn it. But we don't live in a meritocracy anymore because even that's fucking racist now. Everything's racist now. Oh, you go on that Building Racial Literacy website, that anti-racist educator, and you read their shit yourself. They're just dicks. They're just opportunistic, cancerous bastards, parasitical cancer cells on our country, and they're being taken seriously. Then you got that fucking Wookiee-looking Q-Cab Stewart and whatnot standing in Parliament all the time complaining about institutional racism and all this shit. What's their proof for? Because there's not enough brown people in Cricket Scotland. I mean, what the fuck is this? Do you think they complain that the Pakistani cricket team doesn't have enough Bengalis on the team? No, I'm telling you what, do we? Over here, oh, it's a different fucking story, like, because this is an inclusive nation, apparently. But I'm about a dickhead who shouldn't be wearing a fucking kilt. Sorry, it's just so annoying. It really does wind me up, that shit, like. Fucking institutionally racist. You know what I mean? Like, I can't, when I used to get followed about the shop when I was wearing my Fred Perry tracksuits and all that shit, and I was trying to steal Strongbow bottles, well, they didn't know that. I couldn't turn around and say it's racist, but if fucking Punambu gets followed around when he's looking at the broccoli and it's fucking racist. Well, maybe it's because your compadres, your brethren, run around stabbing and mugging people. Stereotypes exist for a reason, Bob Agate. You know what I mean? Then you have Hamza, actually, fucking that video that I sent as well in the chat. This is related. This Hamza Youssef, this fucking second you heard that report, he fucking creamed his bagpipe pouch, like, and he's like, oh, it's about time the police admitted they were racist. It's like, oh, fuck off. Just fuck off. Like, if they said they weren't racist, you would have complained that it was racist. So it's like they just appease them. But the second you appease these people, see, I fucking told you been saying for years that they were racist. Now they've admitted it. No, it's because you don't shut up about it, Fucking dick. Bye. Okay, I sent that in the chat as well. That's at the bottom, and then I'll stop ranting. But Hamza Yusuf, like, fucking institutional racism, tries to insinuate that he's been stopped so many times when he was a wee boy because he was brown. He's like, no, it didn't happen. No, you're a posh, privately educated Pakistani. Don't fucking harm me that one. But you know,
Wookie looking.
I see it. If you go right at the bottom of that chart, you'll see that it's only a minute long. Like,
oh fuck.
This fucking dick. He started jailing his hair and that. People probably tell him that it's not 2014 anymore, eh?
I need to get pictures sorted out for this madness. Oh, 1 second. Oh god. Yeah, we'll get a better one than that. Right. Open.
Why?
Right.
Well, do you want me to play the video if you can't get it
No.
up? Like?
Oh, right, hold on. What are you after? The video of...
Hamza at the bottom, it's just on this topic, like, 'cause as I said, the second he heard that report, he trotted on out, like...
YouTube institutionalized racism?
Yeah.
Right.
Fucking prick.
Hold on. Right. Here we go. Yep.
Institutional racism exists in our society. And I want to take a moment just to say that as a person of colour, the statement from the Chief Constable is monumental, historic. I remember raising issues around racism in the police force, Strathclyde Police as it was back then, when I was stopped and searched over a dozen times as a young boy, whether it
Must
was
be racism.
Working with my friends in the street or in airports at the time. And so the acknowledgement from the Chief Constable is very welcome indeed. I hope it also serves as a reminder to all of us that in whatever organisation we belong to, we have a responsibility to also question whether or not the organisations that we lead, certainly this is the case for me in the organisation that I lead, that we examine and reflect on whether we are doing enough to dismantle those barriers, not just of institutional racism, but structural discrimination that exists for men with a disability or because of the sexual orientation, because they are women, so on and so forth.
I mean, what is he fucking on about? Do you know what annoys me about these cunts? You don't need to play anymore now. But like, what annoys me the most about
having now made that acknowledgement, it's so
is they always lump in like meaningless fucking oppression labels. To, like, all he gives a shit about is brown people getting into positions of power. But you notice he didn't say ethnicity first. He went, oh, people held back because of their sexual orientation or their disability. Oh, yeah, because Rita can't get a job because she's bisexual. You know what I mean? Peter can't get a job because he's in a fucking wheelchair. It's just nonsense. Like, as if he cares about all that. But the last thing I'll say, he's sitting there going on about how it's a historic moment, blah, 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 right? Not at any point have any of these individuals ever provided clear-cut proof that the things they insist exist actually exist. You know, institutional racism, where, what? Because there's not enough brown people that work in fucking Tesco's. Well, you know, it's Scotland after all. So he provided no proof. None of them provided any proof. And Police Scotland never provided any proof either. But yet somehow he managed to come out the other side of this, still parroting the same shit that we were parroting before that report. Fucking nonsense.
Sorry. Continue, DJ. I clicked something and I thought it was just a picture.
No, that's it. That's my wee rant over there.
Yeah, I was trying to get a picture eating fucking popcorn up, but I'll get it prepared for next time. So it's easy to find.
I don't like Scotsman in the chat slagging off Maggie Chapman. Like, I mean, I would honestly plough her field. She's a marvellous specimen for a Rhodesian. Why is there fucking foreigners in the Scottish Parliament, by the way, that seem just because like they appear white, it just pisses me off. Like, she's fucking from Rhodesia. Then we've got Lorna Slater, the crackpot Canadian. Like, fuck off. Fuck off back to where you came from. What the fuck's going on?
Here, Sansom, what's this she put into the chat?
It's the conclusion of this week in Humza.
Right.
Just play it. It's just a bit
Yeah.
of a funny.
Yes.
Wait!
Never gets old.
No, this week in Humza.
The poor brown man.
Oh, he brings it upon himself.
He's a cunt.
Yeah.
I mean, I know most people like really only know him because of his like white pish a few years ago in Parliament, but he was at it before that. You know, I've got a video of my channel from like 2 years before that with him and his pal in Al-Sawa, and they're both sitting there talking, but it's simply not good enough. It's not good enough that there's no ethnic minorities in Scottish Parliament. What do you mean it's not good enough? It just annoys me that they've got the audacity to be able to speak like that, and like whomever is interviewing them or whomever's listening, nod and applaud. Well, you're so right. It's not acceptable. You know, fuck off.
Yeah. It wouldn't even be so bad if they had politicians that were not white that had good ideas, but they don't.
No, they don't. They're just opportunists. Like the whole lot of them are just absolute opportunists. I mean, even like there was that Pam Gosal, so she's like some Indian Tory, Scottish Tory politician, and before she got in, she wanted to be seen as a Tory. She didn't want to be there because of her skin color or whatever. What did she do? Like the fucking second she got in, started being like, I'm being this, being that. You know, speaking as a person of color. So, oh, here we go. Then we got Mr. Curriculum Man, who can't fucking talk properly. The cunt's a fucking refugee from somewhere. Like he's a refugee, right? He came over here as a wee boy with his family as a refugee, got his asylum application accepted. Now he stands in our parliament, borderline illiterate, and talks about the fact that we have an unfair asylum system. You're a refugee. You shouldn't even be in my parliament, to be quite honest. I think that's a bit questionable. In truth, that's just my view. But to stand there and argue the case that we should have more things put into place to make it easier for more people like you to come over. Like, who the fuck are you? You know what I mean? You walk into somebody's house and go, by the way, I've invited all the neighbours around here because I feel like it. You know what I mean? It's unbelievable. It only happens here. You won't see that happening in fucking Cambodia or Niger. You know what I mean? Fuck's sake, just like kick the doors down to the Chinese pub and go, all right, lads, it's time to get the white man in here, eh? Too many of you around here, eh?
But DJ, mate, DJ, when it comes to elocution lessons, you have always got the beautiful cut glass English accent of Graham Campbell.
Oh my God, that fucking dickhead. I sent a video at Scott's Harbour earlier on of him, just like an old memory. Remember his rap? There's a wee song. Do you not remember that? Aye. He's fucking spitting hot fiery bars in the prison, like. Oh, he's a dick, like. I hate that man. Fitting name though.
Oh.
Anyway, I'm not going to rant anymore. I'm probably going to have Alan Smith's database on my arse now. Probably.
Who fancies a wholesome drag queen story?
Oh, I'd love it.
Right.
And by wholesome,
it's time to get a bit of progression.
You mean totally degenerate?
No, honestly, no.
Some of them are quite.
This popped up on my radar, and I'm only quoting it purely because, you know, they were mainstay guests on many a TV show in my formative years growing up. So, yeah, I've dropped the link. I've dropped the share in the stream.
I'm so excited for this.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
I tell you what, next door's dogs are doing my fucking jaffers in. Noisy little cunts, little fucking doodle type things. Anyway, never mind.
Hinge and Bracket star George Logan dies at 78.
Yeah, this is George on the left here. Yeah. Yeah, it was a little bit of sadness because I do remember them fondly from sort of the late 70s, early 80s. And obviously they made appearances on other shows and everything. But, you know, this was the these were the drag artists at the time, sort of in the same vein as Barry Humphries sort of thing. Yeah, George Logan. George Logan died, I think, in the early 2000s. He was poorly, but yeah, I didn't. I thought that they would have been a lot older, but yeah, it was. I don't know if anybody. I mean, you have to be of a certain age. I don't know. 42. Do you remember these guys?
No,
You don't.
no.
Fire.
I've heard of. I have heard people talk about Hinge and Bracket, but I had no idea what it was, other than something that puts a fucking fan, keeps your, something that makes your gate swing.
Well, but the thing is, these two actors were gay. Yeah, they were
No shit.
gay. Yeah, well, yeah, but
I
the
would never have
difference
guessed.
Yeah, but the difference was they and Danny LaRue, sort of similar sort of thing. They were openly gay, but this was just an act. It was no indoctrination, not trying to push things on it. It was a comedy act. And it was quite dry, actually. Some of the humor was very dry. Some of the humor, it was one of those ones, a bit like The Simpsons, where there was two levels of humor, whereby kids would get it, but adults would get it as well. There'd be a sort of a slightly subtle, different meaning if you were an adult. And like I say, I don't know if this would be termed as the slippery slope, because Hinge and Bracket haven't been relevant since the mid-80s. And I reckon all this transgenderism, or the transdemic, as I call it, that we're having to suffer now is more of a sort of a 2015 onwards type thing. So, yeah, it was just, it saddened me in some respects, because this is an affirmation that I'm an old bastard. So when people who I remember fondly from my childhood who've passed away, it's reaffirming my own destiny in some respects, if that makes sense. But yeah, it was, these them there, obviously. I mean,
I felt that way when Rolf Harris died.
Yeah. Well,
And Barry Chuckle, peace be upon him.
Was Barry Chuckle?
Barry Chuckle dead,
Was Barry Chuckle basically I'm getting the word?
No, I
He
don't
wasn't
think
one of them,
so.
was he? No.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me, to be fucking honest, with a moustache like that, but no, I don't think so.
Yeah, so like I say, it was. I just wanted to, this sort of 1940s, 1950s picture of, the what's the word I'm looking for? The establishment portrayal of the female beauty. This is the sort of the harking on to that, whereas what we get now is just degeneracy, and these were sort of a couple of entertainers, as it were, in the real sense.
I'm going to take a wild guess. They never once attempted to perform their show in a public library to 3-year-olds.
No, it was always confined to the likes of Des O'Connor. Val Doonigan, I think they had him on. I used to love Val Doonigan's show. I used to love the Val Doonigan show. It used to be do you remember, do you know Val Doonigan 42?
Yes, I remember Val Doonigan.
I think he was a Southern Irishman. I don't think he was a Northern Irishman, but he was a lovely chap. And the reason why I used to love the Val Doonigan show was because it used to come on, I think it was just after the 9 o'clock, because the BBC News used to be on at 9 o'clock on a Friday, through the week. And I think it used to come on at 9:30, and or on a Saturday night. No, it was probably a Saturday night. Yeah, Saturday night. And the reason why I used to like it is because when the news was on, which was a bit of the telly that our 3-channel telly, I didn't really give a shit about. Used to come on. That would be the time when the chippy van would come around, because we used to have a mobile chip van. And so I used to get sent out to get the fish and chips for the night. And then we'd have fish and chips watching Val Doonigan. That's why I remember it fondly. And these two used to turn up all the time. They were, they were a good act. Like I say, once again, probably not the militant activists that today's transdemic would want, but either this neither the same. It was just another sort of childhood memory that's now been consigned to the memory hole, so to speak. So anyway.
Actually, that's quite a good segue, because we've reached that time. We've reached the hour mark, the time in this show where we introduce Sansom to something batshit crazy that feminists have done. And you're going to like this.
Oh no, you're not farts in a bottle again.
No. This is not farts in a bottle.
I could store farts in a bottle.
No, there's no farts in a bottle. There's no bath water. There's nothing like that at all. This is what happens in Argentina pretty much every year after a feminist meeting. They have a big feminist meeting every year, and then they go and try to burn down the church. And this year, at the time that this was done, 2013, the church put out an appeal for men to come and pray peacefully outside the church to stop the feminists getting inside and burning it down. So have a quick look at this. I think the sound should come on in a moment. So you're spraying them with spray paint. And here's them burning an effigy of the Pope.
Do you know it like doesn't matter which country it is, wherever feminism is able to get a foothold, like you'd honestly think that all these they were all imbeciles, the way that they all act. Like, it just goes to show how effective feminism it actually is when it takes a hold. And women seem to go fucking do lolly, and then all the effeminate men join in because they think they're going to get a shag. It's just ridiculous. All those women could have been, and I'm going to sound very like traditional here, all those women could have been loving mothers and whatnot, cooking, baking bits of bread for her husband or whatever. But no, she stood there with hairy armpits and her tits out, fucking screaming about a patriarch. It's like, what the fuck, like, it's just mental. It doesn't matter which country, they all act the same.
Well, Sansom, what do you think?
Well, all I'll say is there's a reason why the Palmarians in Spain split from the Holy Roman Catholic Church, because they knew this kind of shit was going to happen. And I've dropped a picture in there. This is the place. This is the Palmarian Christian Church in Andalusia, which has its own pope and everything. But because they won't go broke, they wanted to reserve, stick to moralistic Catholic values. They were ostracized, so they don't actually recognize the Pope anymore. They have their own Pope and have done since 1978, which was the year when Pope John Paul got in place. And I read a little bit of history about this place, and I thought, these separatist types. But no, they weren't the separatists. They were the ones who wanted to keep the tradition. and not acquiesce to all of the modernity shit that we're putting up with now, and hence why, gay legalizing whatever, and now it's 5-year-old kids. Yeah, get your cock cut off, because these guys saw it coming. So, like I say, that is the Palmarian Church. So, yeah, in Andalusia in Spain. So, there is a parallel Catholic society. Some would say, once again, if you go to that picture, actually was from the Wikipedia page, yeah. But if you go to the propaganda site known as Wikipedia, then you're just going to get told what the regime wants you to hear. The reality is, as we know now, the head of the Church of England, Justin Welby, is woke progressive shit, has no Christian or conservative values, and the same is true of the current pontiff. If you look, there's a particular video of the current pope where he's on his hands and knees bathing the feet of bloody Muslims or whatever, foreigners, illegals, because it's part of this, one of the Christian traditions, and yet in the same film reel, a lady, he's walking past in the crowd, and a lady reaches out just to touch him. So in other words, to touch the pontiff, to touch, God's representative on earth. And he turns around and he gives her such a malicious stare and starts, don't you dare touch me. And the security guards. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's all you need to know. He'll wash the dirty feet of an illegal Muslim, but one of the people who truly believe in Christianity, just wants to not even harm or anything, just literally wants to touch the cloth of the representative of God on earth, and gets literally lambasted by this fuckwit who's about as Christian as the piss dribble I've left on the side of my toilet. Say that's my thing. So anyway, no, yeah, Ben SPQ, yes. Tables of the Moneylenders be flipped in church again. Yeah, well, that's. This is my opinion of the whole of all of the parliamentary establishments in the West as it stands now, because you name me one government in the West as it stands today, and by the West I mean the European or European origin nations such as here, the United States, New Zealand, Australia, Canada. You tell me of any politician, any single politician of any particular mainstream party who advocates for their own people or the betterment of their own people. Because if you can find one out of the thousands of these lickspittle bureaucrats, if you can find enough to match the fingers on one of Ray Fiennes' hands, I'd be amazed.
There's a couple, but there's not enough. The problem is the majority of the people that run our country do not seem to like our country. And that's a problem.
It goes back to what I said earlier on, that you can't even hear anybody acknowledge that specific groups of people. So in the Scottish context, you won't hear any politician refer to the Scots as a people. That's your first hurdle. You're never going to see that in mainstream politics, because even if some of them deep down believe it, they know the difference between somebody from Taiwan and somebody from Scotland. They're not daft, but they'll never say it aloud. The minute they do, their career's over. You're a Nazi and whatnot. So they never do that. I don't blame them, but it's an act of cowardice in many respects. But they're in positions to change things, or at least say stuff that could get out to a larger audience, but they don't. So there's not a party out there who have the best interests of the people at heart, because they can't even define what people we're talking about.
I would say that Jim Allister of the Traditional Unionist Voice bucks all of those trends, but
maybe the English Liberal Democrats as well. I think they're quite based, if you will. I don't know. That's about it, though.
But it's bad whenever people like us that are engaged with politics. Yeah, Billy Brooks just said TUV. That's traditional union voice I was talking about. I would also say Philip Davies, Conservative MP for Shipley.
Did he know? Well, he did sign during the lockdown for saying, though, that I what was he doing? Was he no shilling for the vaccine?
I honestly don't know what his take was on the vaccine.
I'm pretty sure he was. Like, somebody in the chat, he did sign anyway.
Who's that?
Yeah.
Who's that you're on about?
Philip Davies. He opposed
Yep.
the lockdowns, not, but he was all for the jibby jabbies. Like,
Yeah, well, there's no difference to that. Richard Tice, he was fucking Mr. Lock Me Down Harder, Daddy, and all the Tory, but all the Tory boys are still Tory boys, but the sort of the just slipping slightly Tory boys who are thinking that Tice is our guy. Never forget what Tice said about the fucking jibby jabby and lockdowns and that twat, hateful cunt. Another element of the machine, another element of the system, just another gatekeeper to allow the Tory party to its stinking, rancid, flea-ridden carcass to survive to another election cycle. Anybody who has sense should never, ever vote for Tory ever again, even if you have to nip your nose and understand that Labour are going to get, unless you've got an independent to vote for, vote fucking Labour. Because the greatest thing that you could do for this country right now, all across it, including Northern Ireland, and don't forget, it was the Tory party that shit all over.
Well, the Conservative Party don't stand here.
It doesn't matter. It's their power in Westminster that allowed the border to be put up the fucking Irish Sea.
Oh, yeah, I know, but we can't unelect them because they're not elected here in the first place.
Yeah, fuck them. And don't vote for them or any of their allies. So for me, unless you've got a truly independent, and by that I don't mean Loza Fox's soy milk reclaim party, which is we want to stamp down on immigration because we want to make it fair. No, I want to just stop immigration, full stop, end it. Never been necessary. We don't fucking want it. Let's throw all these fuckers, these leeches, these parasites out, and have done. That's the way it should be. That's literally what it should be. But like I say, Richard Tice, he's got Anne Widdecombe on board. Now, I like Anne Widdecombe. I've got a lot of time for her. But Richard Tice, once again, a lock me down harder, get the secret sauce cunt, and that's what he is. And he hasn't ever retracted that. Even the cunt Dr. John Campbell is now changing his tune on all of this shit, which we know about. Yeah. And he's had a strike, unlucky, you twat. But like I say, Richard Tice is just yet another Nigel Farage generated vehicle in order to allow the Tory party to survive.
There's rumours of him coming back. He's supposed to be making.
Yeah, he can fuck off. He's a cunt as well, right?
He only ever seems to emerge when people are becoming disillusioned with politics en masse. Because obviously
they drag him out.
There'll be a lot of people across the country that don't want to vote Labour, but they don't want to vote Tory either. So that's when they roll out fucking Farage. But
exactly.
Woodlander in the chat said, "Stop voting, leave it all behind." And I totally agree with you. And then Billy Brooks said something about, I don't know. It's just if everybody stopped fucking voting, then their illusion of power would die tomorrow.
You've got to vote.
All you're doing is justifying or giving fucking fuel to a fraudulent system by
it is
wasting your time and going to vote.
DJ, give me 1 second, mate.
It achieves nothing.
Yeah, give me 1 second, mate. If you don't want to vote, still vote, but learn how to spoil your ballot correctly, because that then lends fuel to the fire of the none of the above campaign.
Well, yeah, you could do that. I'm not saying not to do that, but I'm just saying, going into a voting booth to vote for the lesser of the two dickheads does not really achieve anything apart from continue a
I'm
system
no.
that's been failing for some time.
Right.
Like,
No,
even when I was in school, well before I was of voting age, I knew that both parties, Labour and Tory, were exactly the same. It's commonly accepted by the vast majority of people now. They know that politicians lie. They know that nothing's going to change. Then they know that whomever is not in charge, so in this instance it's Labour, you're hearing them now. They're talking about doing all these things like reducing immigration, etc. This is Labour we're talking about. Why? Because the Tories have become so extreme, right? And the same thing is just going to flip in its head. Labour are going to get in, and then the Tories will go back to, oh, if we get in, we'll reduce taxes at X, Y, and Z. And this is just a cycle that never ends. It never ends, and nothing will change. But the reason that it won't change is because so many people trot on a fucking line to go to the school with a wee pen to put a cross in a box that means nothing. And that's not me being a pessimist.
Right.
It's what I find perplexing is people say that the system itself is corrupt, it's anti-white, and it's riddled with wee hats, etc. But yet they'll still go out and vote into that system because they somehow seem to think that they can infiltrate a system that's set out to oppose them. The whole basis of said system is that it's structured to oppose them as a people, but yet they're going to go into said system, infiltrate it from the inside out, say it publicly so the system knows that you're doing it, and they're going to change things. Get fucking real. It's not going to happen. You might, arguably, you might get into a council as an independent. That's easier. Sure as fuck ain't going to get enough seats at Westminster to change the system.
Any given election cycle, we could get enough votes to put people into Parliament to take the whole fucking thing over. See, whenever you add up the people that don't vote, if they all got off their ass, went to the polling station and put their X on their Monster Raven Rooney party, they would fucking win.
Yes.
But even so, but then you've got the aspect of all the constraints, like they can't do fuck all, you know. But Billy Blog just comment there. The problem is the only people right of Mao will stop voting. You'll be handing the reins of power over to the commies. Look around you, Billy. Look around you. Tories are supposed to be on paper right wing, and look at the fucking state of the country. If you've not noticed, the Tories are only doing that bidding of higher powers. Now, whether you think that's the WEF or you think that's the United Nations, it sure as fuck ain't the Tory party. It doesn't matter who you vote in. They're all the same.
Yeah, exactly. And this is why we have to change tactic, because, like you say, it doesn't matter who you vote for, you're going to get the same shit because they're all orchestrated by the same puppeteers. The only thing that we can do as a cohesive unit is to make sure that one of the fuckers dies 1,000 deaths and can never come back. Therefore,
the Tories are fucked. Like they are fucked. Like, I think it really just depends on whether or not.
Let me finish my sentence. Let me finish my statement.
Right, the Tories are going to die. It's not Labour yet.
Yeah, but my statement is, this is my statement, yeah?
Okay.
We cannot exist as it stands now with this two-party facade. It's a farce. Everybody knows it doesn't matter if the rosette colour changes from red to blue. We're still going to get the same shit. And every single cycle, it's going to be a hell of a lot worse for our people. Therefore, I say, unless you have a true independent candidate running in your constituency, whether that's at the local level or whether it's at the national level, right, I've never voted Labour in my life, but I'll tell you something now. Next time around, I'm voting for those fuckers, because as much as I hate the Labour Party, I want the Tory party destroyed. And we need to destroy the Tory party because we know what the Labour Party is going to do. The problem is the Tory party does nothing to rebut it. It just does exactly the same shit. So that thing needs to be fucking destroyed once and for all to allow something else to appear in its place. And if that something else appears in its place is a little bit more, fuck you to the system and fuck you to the USA's fucking world mantra, yeah, which we all know who pulling the strings. We all know who's pulling the strings. It's no fucking secret. We need a party that isn't just going to go along with the quote pro, but just at the speed limit, unlike the fucking Labour side and the left that's doing it the speed of light. We need that fucker to be destroyed. So if there is any semblance whatsoever of being able to do anything, that the Tories, and for, like you say, Farage, the wheel Farage out to draw in the votes. And then what will he do? He'll do exactly what he did 2 times over. He'll give the Tories a fucking pass and allow that rancid Count Dracula's dying carcass get that little drop of blood just to keep it alive, just to keep it alive for the next cycle, because they know after 5 years of Labour, it's going to be so bad. People will vote for fucking Dobbin the donkey if it's got a blue rosette on. Well, I say no. We don't want any fucking ministers in Parliament, the fucking Tories. We want them destroyed, as much as what happened in Canada when they went from a big majority, one election cycle, to like 2 seats. And I would say that 2 seats too many.
Kind of like Labour here in Scotland.
Fuck them.
But like Billy Blogs again, it's not a solution. You would be handing them the power and massively accelerating the rot. I know I don't have a solution, but what you're suggesting will just, and then he said, speed up the decline. And then he says something about a strategy. First and foremost, it's not a strategy. It's not a game plan either. Just telling people to stop fucking wasting their time voting. Doesn't matter who you vote in. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not like this idea that if Labour get in, it's going to be exponentially worse than it currently is. What 1 million people came into the UK like fucking last year or 2 years ago. Nearly 1 million came in last year. Then you've got all these people coming over day in, day out on boats. You've got the Tory party who are insisting on becoming net zero, etc. These are all crackpot lefty ideas, but yet the Tory party are running with it. Like, doesn't matter who you vote in. And Billy, you're a guy who I had an argument with not that long ago where you think Donald Trump is going to come back for a second term and save the West from fucking Biden. Come on to fuck. All right, Gudgy, like, get real. Like, I'm not having a debate with a guy who thinks Trump's going to save us.
No, Trump will do fuck all like always. And like I say,
No,
DeSantis is no better.
But Billy's another guy who constantly goes on about the WEF. How can you in one breath bring up the WEF but simultaneously still advocate for a political solution? By your own acknowledgement, the WEF have corrupted the vast majority of Western countries and their governments. So by extension, that means the systems in which these governments reside in are also corrupted. So you can't have it both ways. Hiya, Swab. Like, I know what you're up to, Nut, and you know what I'm up to, but, you know, let's play fair. It's democracy after all. No, it's not going to work, is it?
There is... I don't see not voting as being part of a solution. I don't think the idea that if the government sees that a fast wave of the population aren't voting, it will encourage them to do better. I think it will encourage them to get worse because they've got less people to worry about.
No, see, like, again, it's not. I don't see this as a strategy or whatever. All I'm saying is that the only reason, to my understanding, is that the system, for as long as I've fucking paid any attention to it, and it's gone on a lot longer than I've been politically aware and whatnot, where one party fucks the country up, the other one makes all these daft promises that they'll change things, then that party gets in and it plasters over the cracks temporarily, then they start their shit, then the party that you booted out start making promises to make things better. Nothing changes. And as time has progressed, and as we're progressing towards, 2030, and all these milestones are starting to come around, you're starting to see now that it was kind of common knowledge anyway that there was an aspect of our government's being occupied, but it's pretty damn apparent now at this point. So what I'm saying is, if people just stopped voting, stopped giving this system credibility, and I'm talking en masse, people just went, fuck you, they're illusion of power just dies. All the time that they waste bullshit in the public about, we're going to make things better and whatnot, it all dies.
I don't think they give a fuck how many people vote. The only thing they're interested in is which one gets over the line first.
I agree with that.
I also think the less people that vote, the easier it becomes for them to game the system.
But they can't get any worse than it already is. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not like if you just all decide to start voting for the Lib Dems, things are going to change. But you know what I mean? It's just the same shit. And then, Billy, again, who do you think will stop voting? It's just like a hypothetical. It's never going to happen. And part of the problem for that is too many people believe in political solution. But what I'm saying is, if everybody just stopped fucking voting, they'd have no power. They're meant to be public servants. Who's really the servant here at this point? Because it's starting to really feel like we're the fucking slaves. They're doing things, they're getting voted in, lying through their teeth in every manifesto, every election cycle, and then implementing international treaties. Here's another one that's coming down the pipeline that nobody fucking voted for. The pandemic treaty. Nobody, you don't hear very much about that in the news. No, of course you don't. That's coming down the pipeline. Same way the migration compact came down the pipeline. All the agreements for climate change targets to be met, that came down the pipeline. Sustainable development, that came down the pipeline. I could go on. I could be here all fucking night. But the point is, though, you didn't vote for that. It wouldn't matter if it was Labour it was in, Lib Dems, Green, SNP, Plaid Cymru, they all implemented it. Left or right, all across Europe, all across America, Canada, America, New Zealand, etc. It doesn't matter if it was left or right. They all implemented international treaties because that's what they're focused on. They just fob the public off with nonsense, domestically speaking, but they never actually commit to any of their promises. They break every single fucking one and instead shelf all that so they can focus on the international matters. And what do you get for your troubles? Lied to, and you become poorer, and you just think, oh, next time we'll change things because we'll vote. Yeah, it was voting that kind of you could make the argument got us into this fucking mess in the first place. Well, you used to do things to traitors back in the day, way back in the day.
Well, this is another reason why voting doesn't work, because we've a system where there's a red line above our government, and there's all the different groups like United Nations, UNESCO, World Bank, International Monetary Fund, who actually make decisions, and they hand it down to the different countries' individual governments to implement those policies in the way that they want them implemented in their country. But the choice of not implementing them is not an option. So I don't know how any individual government gets past that.
No.
Or any country gets past that.
No. And then even when you look at things like, I think COVID should have been the biggest wake-up call for the vast majority of people. Just all across the world, the vast majority of countries, all, as the expression goes, in lockstep. All implemented the exact same shit. Went totally against all pandemic strategies that they all had. Like, totally opposite to that. Like, all of them implemented the same pish, peddled the same rhetoric, peddled the same narratives, and that should have really been a wake-up call. And if that wasn't a wake-up call, what's followed since should have been where simultaneously country after country started declaring climate emergencies, which then gave them the justification to start imposing the bullshit we're seeing now.
And talking of bullshit we're seeing now,
Billy, all your wee questions, what happens when people stop voting in your hypothetical? Well, as Galileo's tongue said, maybe hypothetically, ideally, they'd have no right to be there anymore. But quite frankly, I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't give a fuck what happens to them, in all honesty. I just think people should stop giving them the justification to remain in positions of power. Take the power away from them by removing their credibility.
And on the subject of more bullshit coming down the pipe, this is from STV News. Calls for drivers to be charged per mile as pay-as-you-drive tax scheme. Drivers should be charged on a per mile basis in major overhaul UK's motoring taxation system. 1 second. I'm glad I muted there because I coughed and I think there was a lung coming out. A pay-as-you-drive scheme in the UK should initially apply to zero-emission vehicles, such as electric cars, before being expanded to cover all vehicles. A centre-right think tank, Centre for Policy Study, said this would replace the outdated and onerous tax system of fuel duty and vehicle excise duty. The document stated the Future of Driving report warned that the Treasury faces a 25 billion fiscal black hole as annual receipts from fuel duty dwindle, with motor switching from petrol and diesel cars to electric models. So one of the problems you're running into with these electric cars is people aren't buying petrol. Under the plan to change the motors to per mile basis, drivers of said EVs, zero emission vehicles, would pay significantly less than those behind the wheels of petrol and diesel motors to avoid denting the take-up of greener vehicles. All vehicles would receive annual allocation of tax-free miles, with more for those owned in remote areas with fewer transport alternatives. The government could announce a new scheme that will apply to all zero-emission vehicles from a certain year towards the end of the decade. But I've also heard people saying that electric vehicles should have more road tax placed on them because they're heavier and do more damage to the roads. Thoughts, gentlemen?
See, you're starting to see quite a lot of articles and stuff coming out, and even like sort of alternative media like GBUs and stuff, and they think it's like mic drop material where they go, oh, the news is out about the problems of electric cars. But I think that's them sort of laying the groundwork for what's coming, because realistically, as Woodlard has said in the chat earlier, the long-term goal here is the eradication of private transportation. Now, obviously, if everybody was in an electric car, that's still private transportation. So it's not feasible anyway. You'd have to have charge ports absolutely everywhere. But I think what you're going to start to see as time goes on is less of a push towards everybody being in electric cars because of these newfound problems and whatnot. But the car shit, there's so many different things coming down the pipeline it's more or less coercion to get you off the road, by hook or by crook, to make more expensive. And then you've got these zones now in Glasgow and whatnot, where if your car is your number plate's like under 2015, you have to pay £60 every time you enter the city. They've got all these measures in place to make it financially unfeasible, get you to be more reliant on public transport. That's what they say. They talk about behavioral change all the time. It's all about changing your behavior towards becoming more reliant on public transport, with the end goal being to get you out of your car, thus by extension removing your private transport. I think that's where we're headed. Oh, this fucking nonsense, like all these different schemes and proposals, and it kind of goes back to what I just said a second ago there about the climate change bullshit. They all simultaneously agreed upon that, and this is the end result. We've got nonsense like this now. Why are we doing this? Well, it's to save the planet. Bullshit it is. When minute a fucking volcano goes off, all your handiwork went out the window, didn't it? But we won't talk about that.
Sansom, do you want that thing you put into the chat on the screen now? Yeah.
Yeah, it is related. It's from our good friend, our good friends at the National Housing Party, John Lawrence's party. They dropped an article just now called "The Climate Agenda," and it's like I say, am I a mod on your channel, mate? Because if people were interested. I can drop it in the private chat.
Yeah, I think I need to get to YouTube to sort that out.
There you go. So it's in our private chat anyway. But if you wanted to copy that and put it in, they did their own sort of deep dive on, and it's like I say, it's a bit small font, but it goes into quite a lot of this, and just what DJ was saying. Where is it? There we go.
I'll also get that link. I'll also get that link in the description, so people want to come back to it.
Yeah, but this is the thing. This was the thing that DJ was saying. However, because we're talking about getting people onto electric cars, yeah. And this is one thing is that, however, the globalists don't actually want that. In fact, they don't want you to have a car at all. In fact, they don't want you to have any autonomy whatsoever. They want you confined to a tiny geographic area for the entirety of your life, also known as 15-minute cities. They want everyone to use public transport and driverless car-sharing vehicles, driverless, so that they can dictate exactly where you can and can't go, again, restricted to a tiny geographic area, and eventually based entirely on a social credit score scheme linked to a digital bank currency. So I just thought it was you know, it was just basically backing up the point that DJ was saying, that electric cars are literally a smokescreen to get Joe Normie into thinking, oh yeah, everybody will be driving a Tesla, and you can still go to your trip to the you know, the Derbyshire Dales or the Lake District, blah blah blah. But the reality is, there aren't enough, and this is one of the things that's covered in that particular article. There literally aren't enough physical resources to produce the number of units to replace existing cars, and also, more importantly, the infrastructure. You know, the power grid. You know, the national grid. Literally, it's on its knees as it stands now. We're importing over 600,000 people net a year. It literally, it can't cope. Now, one of the things that I noticed, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Neil Oliver. I'm not sure, but it was when they were talking about you know, the power it takes to charge one of these cars overnight, and they literally take up the same power usage as 2 family homes. That's what they were saying. So not only have you got to run the family home, you now need to sort of double that to power all of these cars for everybody. And you're also importing loads and loads of people.
No.
So the plan can never be for everybody to own a private vehicle. The plan can only be to either be limited to your 15-minute city, your 15-minute zone, and because of the bandwidth that's been gained with things like 5G technology, like I say, there was a lot of people talking about 5G technology like it was linked with the old, you know, jibby-jabby injectable bullshit. Yeah, there's nothing to do with that. 5G was basically put in place because they needed the bandwidth for all of the surveillance equipment that they want to put in place, so that it's soft policing. In other words, you won't get nicked by driving your car in XYZ. You'll just get a fucking nasty great fine. And if you do more, you know, it'll be like the 1, 2, 3. Oh, now we're taking your home off you. And it's no different to that kind of thing as it is when you look at things such as the government's manifesto on making sure that every home in Britain meets green standards. Now, what they actually mean is that they're going to put punitive legislation in place whereby it'll be virtually impossible for people to sell their homes unless they spend tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds to get it up to spec. And a lot of people just literally can't afford it. They can barely keep the roof over the head as it stands now and feed themselves. So that burden's never going to done. So what will happen is, you know, unless you are able to directly transfer your property to your children that they live in the past, it would have been a case of, you know, you have kids, you grow up, they grow up, they, you know, leave the home, they've got their own home now. And when you die, that's sort of like a little nest egg that you hoped to leave for your children coming through, to give them a little bit of a helping hand, you know, post the event. Well, now that's going to be taken away from them, because unless they decide to live in that property, which they probably won't want to, or might be geographically impossible for them to do so, they won't be able to sell that property, which then means that the big old government can come in and say, well, we'll get that up to standard for you. We'll give you a peppercorn, and then we'll put fucking hundreds of immigrants in it, basically. It's absolutely fucking insidious. The whole caper. The sooner we get any kind of resistance against this entire net zero fiasco, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah. I just want to share my screen quickly because it's just what you were saying there. This is from a Scottish government document about fucking all this car bollocks. I've made quite a few videos on this over the years. Like, the links are there to the ones I'm on about. But it says here that despite current data showing high levels of car use, public opinion surveys tell us that there is public support for change. In a recent survey, 73% of respondents agreed that for the sake of the environment, everybody should reduce how much they use their cars, right? Just come down a bit here. This bit's interesting, where it says that this mirrors the support shown in the latest report from the Scotland's Climate Assembly, in which 91% of its members selected to the broadly representative of the population agreed with the recommendation that we need to, quote, provide education for all to support the transition from car use to public and active transport, so people recognize the climate impacts and change behaviors willingly, right? No, notice the willingly part because of what's about to come up. So first, it gives you the illusion of choice at first in order to tackle the climate emergency in an effective and fair way. But right at the bottom, it says, Climate Assembly also noted that its members supported a range of actions to enable a reduction in car use, including improvements in public transport and economic incentives to ensure it is fair. Furthermore, 63% of the Assembly members supported a recommendation to phase in increased road taxes for private car use and to use the revenue to subsidize public transport. So it started off as change your behavior willingly, and if that doesn't work, well, you know, we're going to start moving towards phasing you out of the road by upping the tax. Like, this is what they're doing.
Well, see, I listen to everything you're saying there, and there's something I think you're missing about how we argue against this being a bad policy, because you're making sensible arguments like there's not enough electric charging points and they're trying to take us off the road. What you need to go at this with is, for the love of God, won't somebody think about the poor street walking prostitutes? Because people need petrol cars to drive around in circles and pick these girls up off the street and pay them for doing their work. And this 15-minute city malarkey, and these electric cars is going to damage their business model.
Well, you know, they'll probably roll out UBI by then anyway. Yeah. But I don't know. Like, these things are definitely happening because, like, it's not just talk anymore, though. Like, these things you're starting to see it now, and like the talk is starting to develop into policy. So we are getting to a point where it's going to hit people like a ton of bricks in the face, because they're not expecting it. They don't pay attention. Right? You know, they just go about their life, play the thing, and they have no idea just what's coming. I mean, the phasing out the sale of new petrol and diesel cars in 2030 or 2035, that's obviously going to like totally inflate the prices of cars that are already on the road. So that's going to reduce the market in terms of who can actually afford a car, you know. But as time progresses and then they start to introduce more and more of these measures like they're doing in Glasgow and that, where you have to pay to enter the city if your car's of a certain age and whatnot, then all these parking levy taxes and stuff, you know, it's going to become harder and harder and harder to be able to drive on the road, even if you were hell-bent on not complying. You know, and there's that, like, but they tried to sort of ease the pressure by, oh, we can get an electric car, or on top of that, like all this funding that's been pummeled into public transport, or as they call it, active travel, you know, which is just reliant on public transportation. So you will not be able to go wherever the fuck you want, 20, 30 years from now, unless a bus can take you there. You know, you can't go away into the Highland countryside in Scotland because there might not be a charge port there. You know, and fucking if a bus route doesn't go that way, you're buggered.
What do you think the right to roam laws in Scotland are in any danger?
The what, sorry?
The right to roam laws.
Do you know what? I think there's a bit high possibility of that. I mean, first you've got this is a contentious one for me because I'm kind of on the fence about rewilding because I know like the malevolent like reasons for why it's being suggested, but like it's to try to kind of incentivize people to stay away from the countryside and shit. But like I do not really see an issue per se with like rewilding. But on top of that, though, they're on about more and more national parks. So like Loch Lomond, for example, is a national park and stuff. Yeah, you can still go on to Loch Lomond and whatnot, but you can't camp and stuff. The minute a national park is designated, a lot of rules come into effect, but they have the ability to implement more rules if they so choose. The right to roam and camp and do as you please does not apply on national parks. And then you've got as well, they've got this land reform policy that's been drummed up. It's not really been implemented yet, but more or less it's like community buyouts will become mandatory if like somebody owns a massive plot of land but like say they don't live here or something, it goes to the quote unquote community. So they're like kind of shifting people off their land. Like there's all these little things that are moving on this like chessboard, and it's heading in the same direction, but it's just happening very slowly. So if you're not an autist like me, even though I'm not autistic, but I'll run with it since Clive calls me all the time. If you're not autistic and you don't pay attention to it all, then you might not necessarily see the pattern that's emerging. But rewilding, wolves and all that shit, they keep talking about it, national parks and land reform. So, yeah.
There's, I think it's UNESCO is naming parts of the Mourne Mountains some sort of designated park. It's not a national park, but it's a heritage thing or some other bullshit. And I haven't been able as yet to find out what the rules are going to be, but there would be quite a lot of people that would wild camp up there, you know, overnight. And I think that's pretty much going to be making that illegal. You know, you're allowed to go, but just for the day.
Yeah. Aye, that's pretty much the same. It's
Yeah.
it's like the
Yeah,
same
go-
as Loch Lomond and that.
Yeah, go park your car in a designated car park.
Yeah.
Walk about all you want, and be back there before it's dark, and take yourself away off again.
Yeah. Ben SPQ said, "What do you think will happen in offshore parts of the UK regarding these?" Do you know what? I actually don't necessarily know. I mean, kind of sounds there's you know, like the people on the islands and that, they might very well end up stuck there. I don't know how this is all going to come into effect. Like the 20-minute neighborhood shit isn't conspiratorial. Like these are things that are in a Scottish context. They're in their PDFs on their website. Like the national performance, their NPF4 agenda, which is just the sustainable development shit. Like there's a whole fucking section dedicated to 20-minute neighborhoods and that. I don't know how that's going to work in principle. The Scottish government defines a 20-minute neighborhood as having everything in an 800-meter vicinity. That's a tiny space, you know? And I mean, I don't think instantly it would be you can't go past that boundary, but in time, you know, there could be things like that.
Well, the only way to fit the people into that sort of a space is by building up the way. This is going to be tower block living.
Yeah. See if I can get it. There's a fucking YouTube channel that I found, but I took screenshots of one of their videos and it showed you Perth. These pricks, what they're doing. Like they done up. It was like a bird's eye view of the entirety of Perth, and they showed you all the designated zones when this comes into effect.
We're going to end up in a 5G panopticon, aren't we? That's what's going to happen.
Aye, I'll see if I can get it. It shouldn't be that far. Not that much stuff about Perth on my channel.
The
west coast of Australia, mate. Perth down there, yeah.
Got it there. Fuck, right. Let me forward that to the chat. If you just want to get the images up.
Right.
Fucking, where is it? Oh, I almost sent it to the triumphant one. There's it there.
All right.
The photos.
Right.
Especially the last one, all the circles. Am I a mod in your channel? So I'll send a fucking YouTube channel to the chat. Like,
I don't think you are, but after this stream, I will make you and Sansom both mods.
No.
Right. Hold on. How do I get out of that?
Actually, I am a mod.
Are you?
I think so. Right. There you go. That's the channel there. Pretty surreal.
Right. Hold on. There's the first one. Share screen. Window. That. Right. You can talk about that when I get these other ones.
Aye, so like these are just screenshots from one of the many videos they've got, and it's just the whole channel is dedicated to 20-minute neighborhoods. And this isn't just like random crap posts in a podcast. These are so-called experts, stakeholders, if you will. But obviously, they're on about walking being the most imperative mode of travel. That's what they want you to be doing. Then cycling. Then it's underneath that. It's just public transport. I can't even see that what it says underneath that. Pool car or private car and air, but it's more the last photo really, because there's like 5 photos, but the last one where you'll see the circles.
Oh, right, hold on. Right, yep, got that one there.
Ben asked me a question again there. I'll answer that in a second. But
right, Finder.
So lose that comment.
Right. Is that not up yet? Right. There it is. Right, I'll get that up now. Share screen. Window. Right, there you go. At the one.
No, that's the last one. Fucking, I can talk about that one though, but the last photo, like if it's the one where it's like a yellow circle, not there's a rake of circles. But
why is Dundee COVID?
No, like
yellow circle
screenshot from memory. That screenshot's more like it was just showing you that, like that Perth would be a zone, and then Dundee would be a zone, and then there's like little towns and stuff in the perimeter of Perth, and they're all their own little zones. That's what all the wee circles were there. But the last image is Perth itself, and it shows all the zones, and they've even got fucking names for them all: Neighborhood 1, Neighborhood 2, Neighborhood 3, and shit. Like that's how they want Perth to look.
Yeah,
in the future. It's like, what the fuck? This is just such nonsense for the climate. Really?
Neighborhood Bertha Park.
Mm-hmm. Neighborhood 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
So this is what they're intending to do. Like that channel, as I posted in the chat, like it's worth a wee gander. Like it's absolutely surreal. But yeah, like that's how Perth would effectively be broken down, and obviously, as the video continues, more circles appear. I just took, as I say, screenshots, but it gives you a sort of vague idea of how this is going to come into effect, if it comes into effect, which I don't doubt it won't. But yeah. And then it's all about as well, when they get enough cars off the road, they want to sort of, it's effective, like you've heard the expression like giving back to nature and stuff. So they want to sort of like remove the roads and like make them into big cycle lanes and stuff. And it's all apparently about making things lovely and friendly and whatnot. But really, it's just to prevent cars. You know?
Yeah. There's none of this looks any good. Yeah. Billy Brooks is right. Yeah, we're going to end up in pods eating bugs.
It's not that far. I mean, you could. It's hard to argue with that. I mean, the 20-minute neighborhood stuff you could dismiss as being fanciful and whatnot, but it's, as I say, it's in government publications and whatnot. It's like literally happening.
All I'll say is, as long as I'm at the head of the human centipede, I'm all right.
I mean, I'd hate to be one of the Scots that live down in the lowlands. I feel a bit more blessed up here, that's for sure. I'll just run away into the Highland wilderness and never be seen again. Like, live the Stig of the Dump lifestyle or some shit. But
yeah, I'll tell you what.
But that's why they're putting wolves up there.
Yeah, exactly. But that Ben said as well, what do you think about regarding potential UN collaboration with people in hotels? Some hotels near me have security outside of it stuff. I don't know if you're inferring to like the argument that like they're all UN soldiers and shit. Like I don't necessarily know if I believe that really, but I do think that it's quite clear that they are overflowing all of our hotels because it's breaking our asylum system, and it's done purposely because they have a solution to that problem, and that is safe and legal corridors, and that's exactly what the Migration Compact it was all about, which we signed, which kickstarted the shit to begin with. So it's problem, reaction, solution, really.
Yes, it's very much that. I do not for 1 minute think that the United Nations are bringing UN soldiers that are basically peacekeepers across in dinghies, housing them in hotels, and that I can't believe that. I don't think that they're having United Nations soldiers masquerading as migrants.
No, I
I
think it's a
really
bit far-fetched, like.
it's very far. Well, the other thing is you have to realize that the UN does not have a standing army.
No.
Right. What they do is whenever they want the force for something, they go to the British Army, the French Army, the whatever army, and the Ugandan army, and go, right, boom, boom. We want to put 2,000 of your soldiers into this place to keep a peace between Group A and Group B. And then the UN gives them some form of a kickback. But they only stay in that for a short rotation, like 6 months. And then they're rotated out and other people go in. It's the idea that they are sending soldiers over that, it doesn't pass my sniff test.
No, I think it's a bit. I
Yeah,
have heard it being touted quite a few times, but I don't think so. Like, I mean,
no,
I'm not disputing that some of them are not, to a certain extent, child soldiers or whatever, because, you know, we don't know where they're coming from and whatnot. But I think the idea that the UN is running about the Congo going, right, you've all got AKs now. I want you to pretend to be migrants, right? And when the time's right, fucking strike like the clones out of Star Wars. Come on now.
Yeah.
Well, in fairness, lads, the migration thing is more of a destabilization because of numbers into fragmented society. I too am also on the fence with regards to importing an army, although I am reticent to say that that's because the only thing you've got to follow the little traces of things, yeah? And I think it was last week there was an advertisement put out to military trained so-called refugees. If you stump up for Ukraine, they will fast track you into any fucking European country you want to be in. Now, if that's the case, then all of the European parliaments, especially the British Parliament, that do that, and these people take them up, then when we say you are importing fighting age men from around the third world in particular, and they say, oh, well, these are just harmless people, real bullshit, yeah? Because they wouldn't be inclined to do that to get a fast track into any kind of society, yeah? Plus also, let's say they did do a stint in Ukraine and they got fast tracked in here, then they have training, far superior to the ordinary Joe in the crowd. I'm not saying people who've served in the military, but I'm just saying in ordinarily. So if those same lick-spittle bastards who put that offer up were to say, oh, and by the way, when you come back, if you'd like to form a sort of peacetime militia where we keep our people in check, then we wouldn't be opposed to that. I'm not saying that's a thing, but the main thing for me with these 15 zone cities is, one, they're only policed at the border. In other words, they want to restrict movement. They don't give a shit about what happens within these concentric circles, yeah? So what actually happens is, as we have seen time and time again in communist countries such as the Soviet Union, when that was the thing, etc., is that you end up with a two-tier system of government. You end up with an official tier of government, which is the public-facing government, we'll put nukes on your doorstep, Russia and America, Cold War bullshit. But the actual government that the people internally within the Soviet Union enjoyed was the black market government. In other words, you essentially have areas run by effectively Ronnie and Reggie Cray. Yeah. Now you can get anything you want. Even though people are saying, "No, you can't get this, you can get anything you want as long as you can afford to pay the price." And affording to pay the price can be a means of financial ones, so jewelry or anything that you've got of value, or, you know, it can be of like selling services, i.e., you know, if you beat this person up and take the rap for it, then we'll make sure your family live well for a month or whatever it is. It always ends up in a two-tier system of governments: the official outward-facing version of government, and then the internal one that everybody has to live under, which is black market tyranny. Yeah, that's the worst thing about these things here. You know, ignore the possibility of importing an army or whatever. There are plenty enough nasty, evil fuckers within our own society, and I'm not talking about immigrants or whatever, although Armenia and etc., they're no fucking saints. They will probably end up rising to the top of the chain in that respect, because that's what they know from their own fucking countries. That's all they've done for the last fucking 100 years or so. So you need to be very careful with all of these things, not because of the concentric circles, but because the authorities, as in the official authorities, end at the borders. They do not give a shit about what happens inside those borders. That then becomes a black market economy. In other words, run by bother boys, the hardest man wins sort of thing. You know what I mean? So that's what you need to be careful of.
Yeah, that sounds like Belfast. You know, the police don't really come into the area I live. Housing estates in Belfast, police don't go in them. Lots of places in Belfast, the police do not go in them. And generally speaking, everything's body dog, provided you're not a prick.
Yeah.
Being a prick is frowned upon.
Well, can I just, like, there was a comment there as well about, like, I don't necessarily think mass migration's got anything to do with 50-minute cities. I think they're two separate issues.
Yeah,
like mass migration has quite clearly been done to dilute nation states' populations, because, in the context of Scotland, Scotland has to become a lot less Scottish, because the less Scottish it becomes, the harder it becomes to justify protecting Scotland. Like, so the same could be said for England or any other nation where it's homogenous. You just need to fucking dilute that population. That's what it's about. But the 50-minute city shit, or 20-minute neighborhoods, whatever you will, I think that's it's all part of a long-term plan, admittedly, but I don't think that they're intrinsically linked per se. You know, like, let's not pretend though that, like, issues aren't occurring in these African countries as we speak. Anyway, there's one of these African countries, just one of the first after China to implement a fucking that digital currency now and stuff. It's not like they're exempt from any of the shit that we're about to be infested with. It's just happening here a lot faster.
The grand plan and the plan in the grand scheme of things is to have areas that are occupied, make them small, make them far apart, have one road that interconnects them, and with very little traffic on it, and have 90% of the country left as well. And the only way they can do that is by stacking people one top of each other, like fucking, not even like nice, like fucking worker bees in a hive, very close together. It's going to be a shit quality of life. You'll live in a small unit, and you'll leave there, go to work, come home, eat, shit, sleep, repeat, and your country will have these vast, wild, beautiful areas, but you'll not be allowed there.
No. And it wouldn't even be a case of having to put things in place to prevent you getting there, because it's if there was no other form of transportation except of like a bus or whatever, if there's no bus going that direction, you've got no choice but to walk. When you think about it, you know, you can't get very far when you're just walking. You know, so you're kind of limited to footfall. But another comment there, John said, like, it's all linked. I know it's all linked, but what I'm saying is I don't believe that 20-minute neighborhoods have been created to coincide with mass migration, so we're all next to each other. Because if you look at what's happening anyway, like fucking white flight occurs, and all the different ethnicities of all these migrants that are coming in, they all sort of fluctuate amongst themselves, like their own little ghettos, if you will.
Well,
But
what I've noticed different in the area where I live from whenever I was a child, there are no single family dwellings being built. Now, you have rows of houses that look like they're single family dwellings, but if you look at them properly, you'll notice that there's 2 front doors and there's 2 families living in that place. It looks like it's a traditional terraced house or something like that.
we got a lot of them here now as well. Like a wee flat, two bedroom, well, two flats, but it looks like a house.
Yeah,
2 doors next to each other. A lot of that. But the hotel thing, I'll just say, like, it's sort of my theory that I've had for a few years, but it's sort of been, it's not been confirmed, but the more you hear the rhetoric from these politicians, it's constantly like all this shit about sending them to Rwanda and all this nonsense, right? Like they're constantly focusing on people coming over here illegally, right? And like in the meantime, they're all being shoehorned into hotels because there's not enough houses for them, right? And what's happening is our asylum system is becoming overflowed, and the only solution all these dickheads can conjure up is not to send them back, tell them to fuck off or whatever. It's that we need safe and legal alternatives, safe and legal corridors for them to get here. Now, just go back and read the fucking migrant compact, the refugee compacts that were signed in 2018. That's word for word the same rhetoric they're now saying. So I firmly believe that they're just shoving them in hotels until such a time as they build more houses for them, right? But in the meantime, it overflows our asylum system. The backlogs get too much. They continuously focus in on the fact they're coming over illegally. No mention of illegal stuff. Then the alternative will be provided eventually, which is safe alternatives.
Right. Have you seen what's happened to the prices of the hotels that are not currently full with migrants?
No, I can assume they're pretty fucking high.
Oh, yeah, they've doubled.
I can believe it.
They, whenever pre-COVID, you could have got a decent hotel in Belfast for a night for 2 people for actually not decent, a good hotel, right? A really nice one, the Europa in Belfast, very famous hotel, very beautiful, most bombed hotel in Europe. That was 110 quid for a night for 2 people, because me and Amity would have went there, and then after COVID it was 250, and that's when me and Amity started doing the glamping boating holidays, because what we would have done previous to that was go somewhere, stay for a couple of nights in a hotel, have the hotel breakfast thing in the morning, all good, see around where it was, and whenever we've seen the prices of everywhere, we were like, yeah, no, let's have a look at this glamping. And the last year we got a motorboat, cabin cruiser on Loch Earn, and we're doing that again this year. But the price of the hotels. So what's happened is half of the hotels are no longer used for people like us, because they're full of migrants and they're making big money because they're 100% occupation. Everybody's having 4 meals a day. So, and the government's paying for that, they're making money. And the hotels that we're left with have been able to bump their prices way up because there is more demand than there is supply.
Yeah. Take advantage of the tourists, but then you've got another thing as well that came out, it's been unveiled in Scotland, is the tourist tax. They got a fucking tourist tax coming into effect soon. I mean, it's like, what are you doing? I mean, you know, if you were sort of naive, you would think to yourself, you'd scratch your head and you would say, if these people continue like this, they're going to totally destroy the remnants of our nations. But then, you know, you realize, like,
that's the plan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Fucking tourist taxes and stuff, man. What the fuck? But I don't know. It's like it's very difficult to find something to be like optimistic about. I just think that the only good thing that's come out of the last few years, especially with all the COVID shit, is like so many more people. They might not necessarily agree with you on everything, but a lot more people are somewhat switched on to some of the talking points, and they're a bit more switched on to the very bare minimum, seeing that the government's full of shit, and something's not quite right. But I think it's very difficult to be like, I don't know, we've just been depressing for the last 2 hours, but cheer up, lads. I don't know, but to be to be prepared is to be forewarned, or fucking vice versa. To be forewarned is to be prepared. That's the word.
Yeah. Just every time you get the point where you're saying, I think we've seen the worst of you. Yes, it's right up the road. It's coming.
Oh, it's just like that. Every week I spend time like going through these fucking committees, the Scottish Parliament committees, and 9 times out of 10 it's just nonsense bollocks like that. I skip most of it, but it's when you find stuff that's hidden away in the middle of all these committees and that, and you sit and you go, "What the fuck's this? Never heard of this before." And then you start looking into it, and holy shit, like it's just unbelievable. Like if I didn't post that stuff to my YouTube or have a watch for these committees, I would never know half of this stuff was actually occurring.
Well, to be fair, they are good at hiding it.
Yeah, they are.
And the other question that begs is, if these politicians genuinely believe the policies they're putting in place are good and valuable and will help their community, why are they so fucking quiet about it?
Aye. Exactly. And then if they were that concerned about the climate crisis, then why are they not acting as if they're concerned about the climate crisis? If you were of the belief that the world was going to end like imminently, unless drastic action was taken, why is it? Well, we'll wait till COP next year to talk about it. Like, it's fine. Wait, like, it's like, all right, okay. In the meantime, we're just going to try and pass more laws for trannies and black people and stuff. Okay. Priorities in order.
The world's fucked. The world's fucked for fucked in 10 years. It's gone, right? But I've just signed up to a 30-year mortgage.
Oh, exactly, yeah. And the fucking sea levels are all allegedly going to rise, but I'll just buy a nice big fat fucking house on the sea edge. Like, it's fine.
Yeah. Look,
at what point do these people start to get called out for their absolute bullshit? I mean, Al Gore said 20 odd years ago that New York would be under fucking like 7 feet of water. Well, that didn't happen, did it?
When I was a kid, DJ, New York was going to be a frozen wasteland with fucking polar bears. That was in the 70s. Oh, by the end of this decade, there'll be polar bears roaming the streets of Manhattan and all this bullshit. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then in the 80s, it was like, oh, it's going to be so hot. You're going to be able to fry an egg in the Arctic Circle and all this shit. But the problem is exactly what you say. All these people who are the water carriers for the climate hysteria. So the likes of our good friend, what's his face, Al Gore. The inconvenient truth idiot.
Yeah.
And what's the other one? John Kerry, is it? He's the new
the fucking climate czar for America.
Yeah. Well, all they do is, like I say, every 10 years or so, they tell us that the planet's going to end unless we do something. And when it gets round about that time where the planet's going to end, they just reevaluate themselves by a decade or so.
Yeah. Oh, scientists have discovered that they yet again have 10 years to figure out more bullshit to keep their jobs.
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you know one of the greatest? Sorry, Floyd. Do you remember the ozone layer bullshit?
Yes.
I was in school.
The whole ozone layer.
Well, I remember that in real time, yeah. And one of the things was, when it was Good Morning Britain and all that with Anne Diamond and all them lot. One of the things they used to show you this picture of the ozone layer in the Antarctica and say, people in Australia, Oh, people in Australia, they're gonna fry to death. They're gonna get melanoma, carcinomas all the time. What they didn't, and what they didn't say was, that this was once again, just another bloody piece of bullshittery. This so-called hole that was going to destroy everything. It only appeared when it was fucking dark.
Scott's Armor's comment, fucking hell. Bigger gaping hole in Schofield than no, you're not wrong. And it's like the last few years, especially, they're really trying to over dramatize it all. And it's just so tiresome. Like they're saying, that, it's the science is settled, and in the coming years, we're going to start to see more storms and record-breaking heats, etc., etc. It's like, but the only difference between now and 10, 20 years ago was they never focused so much on storms and floods and droughts. These things always fucking happen, but it was just commonly accepted as a part of Earth, nature and whatnot. These things occur, but now they're focusing in on it and blaming it on climate change. Oh, if it wasn't for CO2, then that wouldn't have happened. I agree with off because they've always happened, Here,
DJ, it's worse than that. They have redefined what constitutes a storm. They have redefined what constitutes a severe storm. And they've made it all, they've reduced what needs to happen for it to be an extreme weather event. And what do you know? We're having more fucking extreme weather events than we ever had before. But
yeah,
it's the same weather, but the parameters have been changed.
Yeah. No, I can believe that. I mean, the fact that they have to do shit like that, though, should tell you all you need to know, really. And to Billy Bloggs' comment there about the club at home, you're bang on. The club at home is where a lot of this climate shit started. In fact, I can't remember the guy's name. I know Kissinger was involved, but there's a guy who was actually on Hillary Clinton's or Bill Clinton's campaign when he was like running for president and whatnot back in the day. But he's on record as saying is they had a name for it prior to the Sustainable Development Ship. They had to come up with a name that was catchy, could roll off the tongue, no bother, and they came up with Sustainable Developments. That was like back in like the fucking 90s.
Yep, it is. It's just fucking madness, mate.
And you noticed as well, though, like, because I clipped it actually, so Machado, like this dickhead on one of the committees today, and he said that the UN in the last few days have come out and said that, like, we're not going to reach the target of preventing, getting over this 1.5 threshold, but, we can ensure it doesn't go any higher than that. So that's just a total cop-out. So effectively what they're saying is that all the things that need to be put into place to prevent the temperature getting any higher has to be permanent. But like, even if we take that out of the equation and you just think about it logically for a second, none of the stuff they've said to date has made sense, because even if we all simultaneously implemented all this shit and let's just say it worked and it prevented the CO2, man-made CO2 fucking warming the planet up, what happens when the planet itself heats up naturally as it does? Like, they seem to negate these facts that the planet naturally cools down, naturally heats up, whatnot. So you could put all the methods under the sun into place, right? But the planet heats up anyway and surpasses all your preventions. Then what? You're fucked anyway. So it's just bullshit. It's just nonsense.
How entitled do these fuckers think they are, and how self-important are they that they think that they can change the fucking weather?
But that's the thing, though. You know, and I know, they know.
Right, and the other thing is, see all these fuckers that are worried about it getting warmer? Do they ever go outside? Because I go outside every day, and 9 days out of 10, I go, fuck, it's cold out here.
I live in the Highlands, mate. It's always fucking cold up
here. It's always cold. It's always wet. What is their problem with us having nicer weather?
Aye, but then you come to the migration aspect, because they're trying to make out now that it'll be totally uninhabitable in Africa and in Asia, and they're going to be climate refugees, and they're going to flow over here in abundance. Now, if we had a government with balls who wasn't occupied, you could say, well, you can try, you can fuck off, but that's not what's happening. They're effectively giving them the signal that they can come whenever they want. Just say you're fleeing a boiling planet. You know what I mean? But that's coming down the pipe. Al Gore said at the last COP that there's going to be like over 1 billion fucking climate refugees coming to Europe. Like,
I fucking. Right. Do you remember Band-Aid?
yeah.
Right. Do you know what? Do you want to hear something really interesting? Do you know who told you that there was a drought in Ethiopia?
No.
Right. Bob Geldof told you there was a drought. Lots of pop singers told you there was a drought. Do you know who didn't mention a drought?
Ethiopians?
The BBC.
Oh.
Because they mentioned the problem with crops. They mentioned the people moving about, but they didn't specifically say there was a drought because there was no fucking drought. What happened was they had a new government come in that was communist, and it kicked a whole bunch of people off their land and put the people that they liked onto their land, and all these displaced people were there wandering about. So the United Nations or somebody come in, Red Cross, and they put up camps. And guess what? Whenever they put up the camps, more Ethiopians came to the camps. And then they decided that the West was going to pay for feeding them, and
Standard.
they got the pop stars involved to push the story about a drought and why they were there, because it's all right if the pop stars tell you lies, but whenever it's the politicians and the news telling you lies. But actually, if it had been today, the news would have probably told you the lie as well, because our news does tell you blatant lies now. But as far back as that, it was a fucking scam.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's the whole thing. What's Billy saying now? What is killing off white people like attacking the middle class, kicking the ladder away? Does that make sense? Maybe third world invasion of Europe makes us easier to dominate. I think we're being mass migrations occurring in every Western nation to dilute our populations. Nation can't be a nation if it's not fucking homogenous. You know? Any fucking negative repercussions that come off the back of it, then that's a different matter entirely. But I firmly believe that mass migration is just to dilute our population.
Yeah, it is. They have the communist agenda requires people not being nationalistic.
Exactly.
Right. And after World War One, they scratched their head because the communist idea was that people would gather to their class level as opposed to their nation. And we had the largest industrial war that we'd ever had, and people had still rallied to their country as opposed to their class. And whenever they scratched their head and had to think about it, was the reason why they did that was because although there are working classes right across the globe, there's nothing that actually connects them, but people do have a connection to their community and their country. And if we want communism to work, we need to break that. And the only way to break that is to put in a lot of people that don't care about the country because it's not their country.
Exactly. And you have to eradicate the semblance of national identity.
Yes.
Something that's been happening, because that's why, like, they've got all the tropes where you'll hear them saying, well, what is indigenous? You know? It's like,
yeah,
it's ridiculous even to pose that question, but it's done purely because anybody that tries to imply that the more this continues, the more it's going to affect the indigenous populations of these lands, their argument is, but you're not indigenous. You know, so as if that somehow justifies it. You know, there can't be an argument to be made to protect us as a people and whatnot and our way of life if we're not indigenous. We're just a clump of fucking migrants. A nation of immigrants welcoming other immigrants.
Yeah, And the other thing we have to realize is that this has been a process that has been pushed at and worked at since at least the early 1930s. And I post Second World War, we're coming up on 100 years of this effort, where it has been sustained.
Because even the argument they were using just after World War II was to prevent never again. You hear it all the time.
Yeah,
never again. And what did they mean by that? Well, they mean nationalism.
Yeah, never again what? Because it definitely wasn't never again war.
No.
Because it wasn't. How long was it between World War II and Korea?
And Kuwait, did you say?
No, Korea.
Korea.
Yeah, right. Because we had North and South Korea.
Oh,
we had Russia fight involved with the North Koreans, America involved with the South Koreans. If they actually meant no more war, would they not have put a bit more effort into negotiations and having a peaceful settlement? Then that was followed by Vietnam. Vietnam pretty much takes up to the Falklands, and not that long after that, we've had 5 years exile saying. And then we've had everything that's went on, all the wars that we should not have been involved in the Middle East. And that's only the wars that we get to hear about, because there's small conflicts go on in Africa, South America, Arab states that never even really makes news here. So the idea that they had a problem with wars and they wanted to prevent them happening again. If this is them preventing wars happening, I would hate to see what would happen if we had something like a military industrial complex that was promoting wars and made a lot of money out of producing expensive goods whose only use is to be destroyed and thus create the need for another one of those items.
All these wars in the Middle East ever really did was not just destabilize these countries, but it's been the sort of justification for a never-ending stream of immigration. Especially since Libya fell. That's all it's done. It's just constant, fucking constant. And what annoys me about it all is that it's just so commonly accepted. It's like there's a political consensus that this is the norm. The only reason this is allowed to happen, Abdul didn't wake up one morning in his fucking mud hut in Liberia and go, "Do you know what? I'm going to go to Europe," because he wouldn't have got to Europe had he known that he wouldn't get in. But he knows he will. He just needs to make the journey. So speaks volumes about the fact that there's not very much done to prevent these people from entering.
Well, the other thing is that during the migration of 2016, I think it was, where it went absolutely fucking nuts. We had people coming on TV shows in Britain. There was actually a disabled girl who came all the way in a wheelchair, and her reason for fleeing the country since is well, all these people were leaving the country, so I thought I would do it too. And we actually, instead of going, yeah, you're only here for a jolly, fuck off, we put her on TV and made her famous for 5 minutes.
It's wrong. I mean, every time that they do that, or even if they just allow them in and treat them accordingly and assume that they're all genuinely fleeing or persecution, you're just sending out the signals for more to come. They're not going to continue coming if they know they're not going to get in. And there's not any excuse at all whatsoever for Britain, because they have to get past all these different countries in Europe. We're on an island, but they still come in their fucking droves. And they know that they're going to get in. because they're effectively given the red carpet. I know they complain because their hotel food and their hotel rooms ain't up to scratch and satisfaction, but the facts are that they know they're not going to get booted out. You know, they'll all be treated as if they're genuinely fleeing war and persecution, and it goes back to the never again shit because all these daft fucking international treaties and whatnot that we all signed came off the back of the UN. Whether or not you want to say, oh, but they're not legally binding, they might as well be. We're all acting as if they are.
Yeah. Ben SPQ has said 42. About an hour from me is Portadown. That shit is scary if it's real. Yeah, Portadown is real. Portadown is the British Army's nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare research centre. Not that long after World War II, there's old films that were sent around the army for people who wanted to go to Portadown, and they had nurses that looked quite tasty in the film, and for the volunteer to go to this facility, and you got an extra £1 a week in your wages and whatnot, and they were saying, would you like to come and volunteer, blah, blah, blah. That's how they worked out how long it takes to kill people with nerve agents, because they fucking exposed the serving British soldiers to fucking nerve agents. There's videos of that, them being in a gas chamber, and they're exposed to this stuff, and all of a sudden they're fucking every muscle in their body switching, and they're on the floor. Some of them people didn't come around again. That's a seriously scary facility, and also the idea that we have things like that as a deterrent and that we're never going to use them is bullshit, because if we were never going to use them, we wouldn't have them. It's fucking nuts. And also, see with the size that our army's currently being reduced to, and it's also still getting smaller, they're going to be an effective army. They're going to have to use the nasty stuff that we've got, much the same way that we have sent depleted uranium shells off to Ukraine, because the Challenger tank, its cannon isn't really up to the job, so it needs these depleted uranium shells to work. And there is all sorts of issues about what that's going to do to the soil, to the people. It's just none of it's good. So there we are. That's that little rant. Anyway, we're coming up on 2.5 hours. DJ Sansom, have you used anything that you're burning to talk about? You want to make sure you get in?
There was just that last thing. It kind of goes to the point about national identity eradication. I mean, so many videos and shit on this, but that last thing I posted in the chat, Jay, you don't need to like pull up any of the stuff. Just that fucking video.
The very last thing about YouTube.
Oh, wait, my phone is fucking monging out, man.
Right, hold on.
Was it water damage or what? But
Surf 20-minute neighborhood practice.
Wait. No, wait. This one here, I'll forward it down again at the bottom.
Right.
There we go.
Right.
Hello.
Right, that's
it's like fucking. It's like a 5-minute video, but it's like if you just put it maybe 2.5 minutes in or something.
Right. Just right. How far do you reckon it should be going on?
About 2.5 minutes in, should be fine.
Right. There's 2:12. And right, 1 second. Let me just get this shirt. Share screen. Right. Here we go.
Culture. The province also dedicates 2 weeks of the year to Celtic Colours, a festival which took inspiration from Celtic Connections in Glasgow, which let Scottish artists bring their talents to new audiences while supporting our own Indigenous language. Over 2 million Australians identify as having Scottish ancestry, as do many New Zealanders. And I was delighted to receive the proposal from my colleague Stuart McMillan, MSP, suggesting that we promote Scotland via Tartan Week in Australia, and look forward to discussing that issue further with him. Large Scottish communities also exist in Argentina, home to the St Andrew's Scots School since 1838, and Balmoral College, which was established in 1959, and also in Brazil, where Scottish traders and industrialists imported football, only to see their newfound compatriots improve the game. I think everybody who commits to keeping our country's traditions alive around the world, and as somebody who lived abroad myself for a decade, I understand the pull of home and desire to celebrate and gather with other like-minded diaspora Scots. And this is why we've decided to expand our approach to adopt a broad and inclusive definition of diaspora. We want to deepen and expand Scotland's links, not only with those of Scottish heritage, but also to include people who've lived in Scotland for any reason. This includes alumni of Scotland's world-leading educational institutions, those who lived and worked in Scotland, including our fellow Europeans who came here under European Union freedom of movement and contributed so much to our country. And Scotland's relationship with Europe remains strong. The Caledonian Society of France celebrated its centenary in 2022. There's a Scotland hub at the University of Mainz, promoting Scottish culture. Diaspora and community is one of the priority areas in the Ireland-Scotland Joint Bilateral Review. And beyond that, we will reach out to those with a professional, a business, cultural or other links to Scotland, our affinity diaspora.
So they're redefining the definition of diaspora, even put in air quotes there. Like, so they've already got like policies and rhetoric and whatnot in the education sector and stuff to create a non-racial identity for Scotland. So the national identity of Scotland, you won't be able to identify a Scotsman or a Scotswoman, racially speaking, because anybody could be Scottish. But now they're going after the diaspora, because obviously to acknowledge that there is a Scottish diaspora or somebody out there with Scottish ancestry, you have to then concede that there's a Scottish people. So they want to now expand and redefine the word diaspora the same way they've redefined indigenous and whatnot, all these different words. They're like eradicating every fucking possible way to, you know, to say that you're a Scot. I don't know. Like, so now the diaspora is now going to include brown and black people, etc. It's ridiculous. You're not Scottish diaspora if you're fucking Polish and you moved here for a few years, then buggered off back to Gdansk or whatever, you know? An Aussie or somebody in Nova Scotia with Scottish ancestry is Scottish diaspora, right? But this is the latest project. Right. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, see the Scottish workers that went to Brazil and brought with them football, and then the Brazilians got a bit better at them. Does anybody think that they're fucking Brazilian?
Well,
does anybody think that the Scottish people who worked in Brazil and started a company or whatever, does anybody think they became Brazilian? No, right. See, there is a slight argument when this falls down where there are absolute fucking dickheads in America who think that they're Scottish and think that they're Irish, but because their great granddaddy once drunk a pint of Guinness or whatever, or some bucky. But outside of those idiots, nobody thinks that the people that went to another country and lived there and kept a bit of their culture alive in that country, nobody thinks that they have suddenly became Brazilian or Japanese or fucking whatever.
No, I totally agree with you. Like, even like rhetoric like that in and of itself, for the time being, as retarded as it is, like it's just sort of perverting reality. Like, no, like you'd have to be daft or naive to believe that nonsense. Like everybody knows exactly and agrees with what you just said, or the vast majority of people. But that pish that he's talking about there is coming with some policy and some framework, and it'll start seeping into every aspect of society in Scotland, including education, and that's where my main concern comes from. But like, it's common sense. If two Polish people come here and have a child, that child might have British citizenship, but that child is Polish or a Slav, whatever you will, if you want to split hairs, right? But that child and them two parents would be classified as Polish diaspora. If we follow that dickhead's logic, then anybody can be of Polish diaspora, of Polish stock. Therefore, there can't be any Polish people. If everybody can be Polish, then nobody's fucking Polish. And the same principle applies here. You know, that's what they're doing. They're just chipping away at every aspect of our identity,
Well,
bit by bit by bit. And they have to do that because of the constant influx of brown and blacks and whatnot, because they have to get rid of this us versus them shit, because they masquerade their malevolence under the shit like, you know, it's for inclusion, etc. And it's not, though, is it? It's like you want these people here and you're removing our identity, you know.
and now you understand why the transgenderism is so important.
That's another example of perverting reality.
Right, yes, but here's the thing. That's the one they went for first. They went for you can identify as male, you can identify as female, you can identify as fucking whatever you want, right? Which, by and large, the majority of the population didn't really give a fuck about, and they were, okay, you do you over there in that corner, it doesn't affect me. And much the same, but if they get it legally in the books that in order to become a woman, you've just got to say, oh, I'm a woman, and bang, all of a sudden on paper you're a female. You're getting fucking medical things sent out to go for your fucking cervical, your smear test and shit like that, right? Well, if that can be done with a bit of paperwork and stuff, why can't you be Scottish? Why can't you be English? Why can't you be French? If I identify as Brazilian, I wonder will I get any better at football? You know, because you can't argue, and you can't argue with the anybody can be Scottish and you can transition into Scottish. You can't argue against that without also arguing against men suddenly becoming women. And you can't argue about that because, well, that's sexist and misogynistic.
Because they broke the fourth wall, so there's fucking everything's off bounds now.
Yep.
You know? Or nothing's off bounds, I should say.
Yeah. The only one that the law has fought back against is actually age.
Aye. For now.
Oh no!
You see some like fucking men or women, mainly men though, who identify like 4-year-olds and shit.
Right. Yes, but here's the thing. If I decide to identify as 67,
you don't get a pension.
No, I want to right. Not only if I was able to identify as 67, not only would I get a pension, I wouldn't have to work for the years in between.
Aye.
Right. Okay. And not only does that affect all the pensions, it also affects the tax, because while you're not working, you're not paying tax.
Aye.
Right. And whenever there was somebody actually wanted to identify as 10 years younger than he was, he got the 65, I think it was, in America, where he was due for pension and whatnot. And he went to the doctors and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm as fit and healthy as an average 55-year-old. I want to identify as 55. I want to go back in the labor market. And the courts and the law and all went, nope, can't do that. because they understood that doing that would allow the money system to get fucked up, because people wouldn't be paying taxes, getting their pension early, all that. And they went, no, boom, bump, your age is binary, it's set.
But see, that's the thing, though. Like, as I say, they broke the fourth wall, so effectively, you should be able to do as you please. You should be able to identify however the fuck you want, how old you want, what sex, what animal, whatever. Like, the fact that they get to determine what is and what isn't acceptable in terms of what you can identify as, they're making up stupid rules. So, you know, so it's, I don't know. Like, you do make a good point there, but what I do find as well that I'll leave on is something that I've said in videos not before that really fucks me off when these immigrants come here, and even if they're like second generation or third generation, then they'll say, "I'm Pakistani Scottish." So you get a homeland, you get an identity, but yet you come to Scotland, and that somehow makes you Scottish. What does that make me then? What am I? You're a Pakistan. They're just as Scottish as I am, but they're Pakistani Scots. You know, because they will fight their case and they will insist they're just as Scottish as I am, right?
Oh.
Because it's nothing but a label. How can you be just as Scottish as me, but also be Pakistani? Because they come from somewhere, they have origins, they were native to somewhere else, and they happen to reside here. But what's happening now is they come here and they're instantaneously just as Scottish or English or Finnish or whatever country they reside in, but they also simultaneously get to cling on to where they initially come from. So they get to keep their identity intact while they hijack ours. And then that works in tandem with what I've said a few times tonight, the eradication of our national identity. That's working in lockstep with them hijacking it. Our national identity has to be broken down and eviscerated in order to accommodate these people. That's what's fucking happening.
Well, did you hear about the problems Cricket England were having? I don't know why they're still ongoing, but they had a very interesting problem quite a few years ago. Possibly still do have that problem, but it's just been hushed up. They were having problems getting players in their youth team, because like everything else, cricket's played in the age groups and whatnot, and they'd have like under 16s tournaments and under 18s tournaments, and they found that most of their best players that they wanted to put into their underage representative teams were going, no, I'm not going to play for England because I want to play for India. I want to play for Pakistan. I want to play for fucking, it was mostly India and Pakistan. And they were saying, no, I'm not playing for England. My aim is to play for India or Pakistan.
And again, that's because they are diaspora.
Yeah.
You know, they might be born here, but they're not us. They have a home, they have a people, they have a shared culture and whatnot, and they identify with their own. You know, but I mean, I don't fault them for that. It's just we live in a fucking world now, and they call it globalization, where they're just mixing all these different populations and trying to pretend that it's normal. It's not normal. Nations have always been fucking homogenous, and when they tend to get diluted, historically speaking, over in periods of time, that's when they fail. That's when they fuck up.
Yep. Every goddamn time.
Every empire is fucking fallen the same way, more or less. Like, I mean, this wouldn't have been an issue for Billy asked a question ages ago about when was Scotland 100% Scottish. I don't know when it was 100% Scottish, but in 1998 it was 99% white.
Yeah. That's pretty much that's pretty much an indigenous population.
Yeah, exactly. It's because it's now, I don't know what it is now, but it was fucking 96% in 2011. I don't know what it'll be now, but let's just say it's like 93, 92%. That would still put it at like 87% Scottish white. The rest is like British and like Europeans. And then DG said that anybody can be American, but only Scots can be Scots. Exactly, because like America, to hate that cliche term, but that melting pot, it was like all these different European peoples went over there, and they kind of had to leave their identity at the door. Now that doesn't mean jack shit, because if you went over there with a woman who was of the same ethnicity as you, your child's the same ethnicity and whatnot. But Americans or some of them are hybrid Europeans and whatnot, but
Yeah.
some of them can trace their ancestry back here because they're biased.
Yeah.
Just a quick one, DJ. I don't know, because if you think about before the countries were actually formed, yeah, we were all pretty much of the same stock. But once, you know, the borders were official, the Welsh border, the English border, and the Scottish border, Scotland hasn't been, you know, absolutely 100% Scottish, because there's always been that wonderful element of English people there.
No, it was Scotland before it was Scotland. It was made up of 3 different groups of people: Celts,
Yeah,
Picts,
but the
and
English made it though for you. Yeah.
No, not really, because the English.
Yeah, they did.
They're not there. You're going to go down that route.
Look, you had 2 bites of the fucking cherry.
You're like Germanic. You're fucking Saxons.
Yeah, of course.
You're like half Celt. You're like half Celtic, fucking half German.
Yeah.
You're going to go down that route, like, you know? Fuck you.
Yeah.
More so Lowland. There's more so Lowland Scotland.
It's like nations.
What?
Huh?
And anyway, like Britain was fucking left apart from like the Romans and whatnot, but for like 1,000 odd years almost, give or take, the DNA was relatively untouched. You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we've all got to claim this land. We've resided on this
then.
fucking island a lot longer than the Maoris have existed for, and all these different groups that are classed as indigenous. So
exactly. Yeah, exactly, DJ. 100% on you there, mate. Because they class the Maoris as indigenous to New Zealand, and yet we've inhabited these islands far longer. Oh, but the UN says, oh, well, you can't be indigenous. Why is that? Well, because you might have an argument against all of this mass fucking immigration that we don't fucking want.
Yeah. Like, just look at how they define indigenous now. It's another word that's been redefined. We've talked about this before. It's every group of people that lived alongside or under colonial rule.
You can only be indigenous now.
That's how it's defined now. Indigenous and I've got old dictionaries here. Like indigenous used to be a synonymous word with native.
Yes.
Native to a land.
Yeah.
Now it is groups of people who lived alongside or under colonial rule. So that effectively excludes white people. Even if you weren't, like, if you were Swedish, you weren't involved in colonialism, you're still white. So fuck it.
Indigenous now basically means you have to be a chick with a dick. There you go.
No, indigenous means you're non-white. So we're the only groups of people where UN genocide laws can't apply to because we're not indigenous. So all the shit, even though we tick every fucking box for it, it's allowed to happen. Because only indigenous groups are protected. Cultures have to be protected and whatnot. We don't.
Yeah. This is... Yeah, we need our language back.
Bring back the pics, that's what I say. Bring back my naked painted ones.
So DJ, you descended from the family Bean? Is that what you're saying?
No, a few years ago I started doing a bit of digging into my second name, and it's genuinely, I'm not obviously going to say my second name on fucking air, but it's a Pictish descent. Literally is. So that genuinely blew me away. I've shown you my second name privately, you know it. But
yeah, is it Yusuf?
That genuinely is though. Fucking didn't expect that. It's a pretty unusual second name. Barely any cunts got it. But and then when you start to look into like 1 in 10 Scots in Scotland today, is off Pictish descent. So like, you know, I'm not saying I am part Pict. But what I'm saying is my second name derives off Picts, and there is still Pictish bloodlines out there. So
you'll be painting yourself blue.
I already am, mate. Butt naked.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I just don't know what the score is time wise for you. 42, but
yeah.
I mean, I'm okay, but it's just because I thought you were looking to wind it up, so to speak.
I remember the tune to put on for you end it, like.
What tune are we putting on?
Oh, Graham Campbell, like. It's in the product shop.
Campbell?
Yep.
Aye.
Oh, I thought we were going to put on. I was just speaking to the folk in the chat.
It's got to be Graham Campbell for people that. Martin W.
Yep.
Scotland would be nothing without England. Do you know what? I'll kind of let that slide to a certain extent because you're a dick.
Anyway, shall I finish off with a bit of housekeeping for let the folk know?
Yep. 1 second. Right, hold on. I had noise coming into my ears there because I was getting that song queued up. Right. Yes, do some housekeeping, please, Sanson.
Okay, so tomorrow night at 4:00 on Ragnar ISB's channel, it's Rags and Jack, and they've got their regular guest, Matt the Angry Bootneck, on. Then on my channel at 9:00 tomorrow, I'll be doing the Sunday Thangs stream. Just a bit of random apolitical tomfoolery, hopefully with our good friend DJ. He should be turning up, and potentially maybe one or two others, we don't know yet. And like I say, if the 77th Brigade allow it, unbeknownst to me, because our good friend Toffee's sort of taking a back seat on the old anti-social media, I'll also be doing on Monday night the next Wood for the Tree stream. And that's also at 9:00 with special guests, John Davidson, Equilux, and our good friend the Woodlander. It's just a panel discussion stream where I pass on some talking points for the guests to mull over and then have their opinion. The last one was quite well received, so hopefully this one will be too. And then obviously finally, you can catch our good friend John Davidson streams at 9:00 on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays.
Right. What I'm going to add to that is this time next week, I have a special guest coming on. It's going to be fucking excellent. Al Max coming on for a conversation. So that's what's coming up next week. Get yourselves ready. It's going to be good. And other than that, I'll get the outro up.
For anybody that's not seen this, you're in for a treat there.
Well, I've no seen it. God, those are about to play here. Right. I'll play this and I'll put the comments up on the screen.
We have been unable to see the truth because we have been fighting for our little piece of church.
Me have to live to remain in this Inglaterra. Me reach way back in the day, but me can't speak, me can't sleep, me can't weep. We indeed, me can't breathe. For deceit, distrust, and disdain. Know that the beast be unleashed, the beast unleashed, the beast unleashed its cage. It's in them paper, it's in them book. Hate in them faces, word and dirty look. It's in them swag, St. George's tats. Them not interested in Union Jack. Them not black on that rascal flag. It's in them school, the wisdom of food on the television, evening news. It's in them souls since days of old. When them vanquish we ancestors, slaves caught and sold, them whitewash history and plunder all we gold. England's dreams, so it seems, got lost on the high-rise, low-life schemes. This survival, this survival, make the alloy on them hubcap gleam brighter than them halogen the headlight beam. Me have to leave to remain. This Inglaterra, me reach way back in a day. Me have to leave to remain. But all this hate want to drive we insane. So let I breathe and give I live to remain. Screw the workers, ruled by shirkers, proud of all the brain donors them have nurtured. North and south, them shut them out. Take every single immigrant and put them out. We are English and we are proud. In it. It's in them pigment of them melanin. Sick I'll salute and song them sing. It's in them hedgerow and avenue. Forgotten masses, chosen few. While Mama Nature choke, on the bile them spew. Jah, hit the queen, and all that she mean. England's dream of pastures green were lost on the high-rise, low-life schemes and the silence of her victim screams. We have to leave to remain. This Inglaterra we reach way back in a day. We have to leave to remain. But all this hate will see the end of days unless you let I breathe and give I leave to remain.
What in the name of holy good fuck did I just listen to?
That is Graham Anti-White Campbell, the black man who was born in England but claims he's Scottish, who's an SNP councillor, and he's a cunt, but he thinks he can spit bars. So I thought it was funny.
Yeah, well, I am not ending the stream on that.
Oh,
Not a fucking hope in hell.
When there's nothing left but the fire in my chest and the air that fills my lungs, I'll hold my tears and trade my ears for a glimpse at kingdom come. On the other side of misery, there's a world we long to see. The strife we share will take us there to relief and sovereignty. Oh my God, we'll have our home again. My God, we'll have our home. By blood or sweat, we'll get there yet. By God, we'll have our home. In our own towns, we're foreigners now. Our names are spat and cursed. The headline smack of another attack, not the last and not the worst. Oh, my fathers, they look down on me. I wonder what they feel to see their noble sons driven down beneath a coward's heel. Oh, my God, we'll have our home again. My God, we'll have our home. By blood or sweat, we'll get there yet. By God, we'll have our home. The road is dark, the way is lost. My eyes, they strain to see. I struggle forth to find a friend to light the way for me. Oh, brothers, can you hear my voice, or am I all alone? If there's no fire to guide my way, then I will start my own. Oh, my God, we'll have our home again. My God, we'll have our home. By blood or sweat, we'll get there yet. By God, we'll have our home. Oh, by God, we'll have our home again. By God, we'll have our home. By blood or sweat, we'll get there yet. By God, we'll have our home.
Okay, everybody. Samson's been Samson, DJ's been DJ, I've been 42, and you lot in the chat have, as always, been fucking amazing. Good night, God bless, see you all next week. Goodbye.